We are live.
Thank you. I see you recently. I'm sitting next to the you want me to get rid of one chair? Yeah, we don't have to get rid of chair.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order for November 21st, 2017. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pleasure to be here.
Okay, the first order of business is to approve the agenda. And I have to ask, is there anybody from here from Margaret Drive who would like that zoning issue put on the agenda tonight? Okay, then it's not on the agenda, we won't put it on.
Can we add it for the next one, please?
We could put it on this one if you'd like, Jason.
I know that the residents had an interest in speaking and they're not here because they didn't see it on the agenda.
Okay, we can. Parliamentary procedures, just basically, if you have the floor, nobody interrupts you, and the way you get the floor is I recognize you, so that's basic. And I've added we didn't vote for the agenda, so all those in favor of the agendas, say aye.
Aye. Who moved it?
Okay, I guess I did.
Who seconded it?
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And I put a new agenda item on here called General Discussion of the Board. And I thought it would be good just to say that we are a new board. I want to welcome the old members back and the new members. And I'm going to say something that's pretty basic. I think we all know that. But if we're going to accomplish anything positive, we're going to have to communicate. And I looked up the word communication, and it's the exchange of information. And information is facts about something. And there's also a word that was very close to misinformation. It was misinformation. Now, misinformation is false or inaccurate information, especially that which is deliberately intended to deceive. And so we don't want to exchange misinformation, so that's not going to help us. And I think one thing we should do is obviously define a problem before we solve it. And there's no dumb questions, and I'm sure I'll ask some questions, so feel free to ask any questions you want. And having said that, is there anything that any of the new members or the members that are coming back want to say at this time?
I would.
Okay.
You know, you might ask yourself or ask me, why did I run for the Board of Selectmen? This is the first time ever for me at 86 years old. I did it because I am really concerned about government at all levels. It doesn't work, and that's too darn bad. It's most easily fixed in the small towns, and that's what we are. It's going to, you know, people look at things on both sides of the aisle, they're all good people, and they say this is black and this is white. And things are never black and white. They're always some shade of gray. And I hope as an unaffiliated member of the board that maybe I can convince people that things are gray instead of being black and white. And that's why I'm here.
Good. And I can follow up on that too. I started as first selectman 2 years ago, and I really did it because I wanted to do what I could to help East Windsor. I was retired at the time, and I wanted to be involved in civic affairs. And that's really what I judge things by, is do I feel it's going to be good for East Windsor or not? And if anybody has an idea for East Windsor, then if you can convince me that it's going to help East Windsor, then I'm on your side. But I'll listen to you, but take the time to let me understand. Anything further?
Well, I guess,
Okay.
reason I keep running here is because I want to be here. My heart and my love is for the town of East Windsor. And I want to see it grow. I want to be part of it. I want to be up here making decisions to make this town go forward. And I like this job. I love it.
Okay. Anything further? All right, we'll go on to the next agenda item, which is approval of the minutes. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 17th, the special meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting for October 17th?
I'll make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of October 17th.
Is there a second?
2017.
Is there a second? And, Charlie?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, 2 abstains. And approving the minutes, the regular minutes of October 17th. Is there a motion to approve the regular minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meetings of October 17th, 2017.
Okay, is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Abstain.
Abstain.
2 abstains. So the minutes passed, accepted. Communication. I have, in your package, there was a letter from Albert Floyd, the Secretary for the Library Association in Warehouse Point. And it says, "Dear Selectmen, the trustees of Warehouse Point Library would like to invite you to attend a farewell reception for Director Vincent Bellona, who is retiring at the end of December. Vinny has given 28 years of devoted service to the library and the East Windsor community. Guests will be welcome from 5 p.m. Wednesday, December 6th, 2017. Light refreshments are served." Is there any further communications? Okay, that brings us to public participation. And so is there any public participation? Jim.
Jim Barton, 158 South Water Street. I wanted to bring everybody up to date on the Veterans Commission and American Legion Post 40 project on the Joseph Tracy Memorial Green, because a lot has been happening. Try to keep it brief, but as you know, many years ago, the Veterans Commission started thinking about updating the veterans monuments in town because we didn't have very many. 2 years ago, we pulled the trigger and decided to do it. Since then, the American Legion has come on board. We've had our clothing drives and our bottle drives and our raffles and our dances and our road racing and all that stuff, and we've raised quite a lot of money. And 3 months ago, we had a groundbreaking ceremony at the Green. 6 weeks ago, we actually did do some damage to ground. We actually started digging. And today, I will call it substantially complete, because The fences came down yesterday. The pavers are in, the monuments are in. More grading is being done as we speak. Another flagpole is gonna go in tomorrow, courtesy of the Warehouse Point Fire Department. Benches are gonna go in next week, courtesy of the Rotary Club. And it's really nice. We have 392 engraved pavers that people have purchased to help us with our fundraising. Those are in there, they're really impressive. The monuments are impressive. I would urge you to go take a look. We're gonna have a formal dedication in May 20th at 2 o'clock. So we hope to make that a big event, and by then, the grounds are gonna be beautiful. We're even doing plantings now, even though it's Thanksgiving. So, we're really gonna get everything done. So, take a look through, see what you think.
It's a good-looking job. Did you have a professional planner do that for you?
Planner?
Yes, plan out the site?
Yeah.
You?
No, Jay, I don't want to get into thanking everybody. Jay, from J.R. Russo, has been super. The project wouldn't be to the scope of where it is without Toyota Financial Services and Southern Auto. You know, I mentioned, you know, other donations like the fire department and the Rotary that are coming up with buying things for us. So we've got a lot of help.
Will you continue to sell the brick,
Yes,
the engraved bricks?
yes. I have 8 more orders today. It's going to be a little bit more difficult now to put them in because the locking stand is in there, but we're going to be able to take the blanks out and put others in. I would expect, frankly, right now a surge in interest. People get down there and look at it. So, yeah, they're still available.
Okay, thank you. Further public participation? Yes.
Hello, I'm Jessica Bottomley on 91B Main Street in Broadbrook. I serve on the town's Historic Preservation Commission and on the board of the Historical Society. And I want to talk a little bit about the Broadbrook Mill. I know that there's been a lot of discussion. There's a lot of plans going through. Recently, a Section 106 environmental review was submitted for the soil remediation. And I know that the mill buildings weren't specifically identified for what they're going to do with those buildings in that review process, but I know that it's been a discussion amongst the Board of Selectmen about what they want to do and possible demolition of the buildings that remain. Now, I am from Broadbrook, lifelong Broadbrook resident. Everyone knows that I love Broadbrook history and history in general, and I think it would be very important for us to work together to try to come up with a plan to save as much of those buildings as we possibly can. That mill is on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's there because it has historical significance. This town, this part of town wouldn't exist without that mill. And I don't mean just that that mill was there and that the town grew around it. I mean that it literally built half the town. 3/4 of Main Street, half of Depot Street, almost all that we have in Broadbrook that is old exists because the Broadbrook Company built this town. And I think we should honor that history and honors what is there and work together to develop a plan. Now, like I said, I serve on the town's Historic Preservation Commission. We've been talking about that recently as we've learned of the discussion that's been going on here for the past year. And I think this is an opportunity to reach out to the Board of Selectmen and to other commissions for us to work together to really find a plan that's going to work best so that we can preserve as much as we possibly can to honor that history that exists, to have a good conversation, and to really build our community up. And we don't do that by tearing buildings down. When we tear buildings down, it sends a message to the community that what was here before doesn't matter. We want to preserve and work together and make it something that Broadbrook can really be proud of once again. Thank you.
And I agree with everything you said. We do need people like you to help us with this. It's owned by United Technologies. We've been talking with DEEP, and as you said, the Section 106 is going to, and it's on the National Register. So it's now the federal government's going to have to hear, and the state government's going to have to hear our view on this. And so if you could help us with that, it would be great. So I think it's not over yet. United Technologies would kind of like to tear the whole thing down and just cap it, they call it, which cover it with, I guess, 1 foot or maybe 18 inches of topsoil, which is it's too bad. And we've toured the building. The roof is leaking, which is not good. It has a lot of mold inside the main building, but it has good beams and good structure. So hopefully we can save the main mill building that's left.
Can I say something in response?
Sure.
I did reach out to, I don't know how you pronounce it, AECOM, they're the engineering firm that's in charge of that. I reached out to them, reached out to the National Park Service, which is what the National Register of Historic Places falls under, reached out to the Connecticut Historic Trust, reached out to the State Archaeologist's Office, who are well aware of the project and what's been going on with it. So I have made those connections, and I think what Mr. Hoffman said earlier about, having the opportunity within a small town to really work together on projects like this, to work together as in government and in community, I think that's where it starts. So I've reached out to all those places to get more information. I invite anyone to come to a Historic Preservation Commission meeting where we'll be talking about that to answer those points.
Good, and I'll be there, and hopefully we can get more involved and save at least the main structure of the mill. That would be great.
Thank you.
Bob, have you talked to UTC about the cost of demolition, and would they be willing to give us that money for restoration?
Not specific. We haven't come up with a dollar figure, but that's what we're hoping for, is that because it's historic preservation, they have to tear it down or destroy it in a particular way, and that's going to cost them money. And so if we could take that money to restore it, that would be a good solution. And so I think we can work with that, and I think we're going there. We also tried to reach out to get a grant to help us save that, and we didn't get that grant, but there's other grants available too. So if we can get some money, and they kick in some money, we should be able to do something. So, and I guess Matthew Panciera is the person from AECOM that we're working with.
Have we looked for help from our congressional delegation to make that grant something that can happen?
And the answer is no. But I will talk to Chris and Carol.
I think the first thing you got to do is have a complete plan. You got to know what you're going to do. You got to know how much it's going to cost, and what there is for a schedule for making that happen. I don't think the town has deep enough pockets to attack that thing by itself. If you can get UTC to give you some money that they would have spent in demolition, that's a start. If we could find somebody in the private sector who could foresee a future for that, that could make that possible. I haven't been inside those buildings for an awful long time, not since the time that they turned them into condominiums. But at the time I was in it, it was kind of the office area for the mill, and it would be an ideal place, if we're going to grow and be different than we are today, for an incubator facility to grow new businesses. When I retired from Hamilton, I began a consulting company, and one of the jobs that I had was with the State of Connecticut Economic Development Commission, and one of the jobs I had for them was to look at a project that Central Connecticut University was heading up for the state, and that was to have an incubator facility in downtown New Britain, where they had an old office building that they did some renovation on, and then they would put, they would provide administrative help to little companies, tiny companies, sometimes person companies, a guy with a good idea. And the state at the time was providing that administrative help. But, and when I left that activity after 5 years of auditing it, it was really doing fairly well. I have no idea whether it still exists or not. But a building like that, you know, if you make compartments in the thing, would be a neat thing to have. And it's the beginning of something I hold dear to my heart, and that is economic growth that Steve was talking about in this town. Businesses pay taxes. They don't send kids to school. And so all the money drops to the bottom line. And if you could get these incubators going, the city of New Britain thought they were getting like about 20% of those companies, those little tiny companies, they were actually opening bigger facilities in New Britain. So there's a success story there someplace.
Yeah, and you're new. We, as Jessica said, have been working on this for a year. And so there's a lot of input. And is Lori Whitten here?
She was.
I think she left.
Wow, okay. She's actually drawn a diagram of what she'd like to see there. And so I think at a future Board of Selectmen meeting, maybe the next one, we can review that whole, at least catch up to where we are, and we'll have a starting point to
That'd be good.
plan. Okay.
You can't grow history. It's either there or not. So that once that mill goes, it's gone.
Yeah. Okay.
My question
Go ahead.
with that, Bob, is, the young lady was talking about, that there's plans to tear it down and so forth. And, is there any document that's been provided by UTC or anybody? What is their timetable, and what was that history of the contamination? And has there been, that was done by the state, correct?
No, it was done by UTC. They're funded by that AECom,
Okay.
and but overseen by the DEEP. And we do have a lot of very specific information about the pollution that's down there. It's primarily coal ash, and there's some hot spots of other. I guess it was a tannery at one time too. So we can get that information. So we've come a long ways.
Yeah, I'd like to know what that is, and what, again, is the remediation plan, how feasible is that? And what is their timetable? I mean, if we're gonna go through all this and,
They're moving quickly.
January 3rd, they're there with a machine.
Yes, yes.
I don't know the answer to that, Charlie, but my experience with UT is that if we came to a plan and said we'd like to,
Yeah.
delay the final decision to destroy it, they would listen. They're a pretty good company.
Yes.
And they don't like doing things that damage the environment, that have an adverse effect on on towns like ours. So I really believe that if we went to a plan, it might work. Now, having said that, we have a plan.
I think we do have a plan.
With Lori's sketch, maybe that's the beginning of a plan.
It is.
But you gotta sit down and say, this has to be done, this has to be done, this has to be done. At a certain time, we have to go look for a private sector partner in this kind of thing.
Yeah, and the contact at UTC is William Penn, an easy name to remember. And I could call him up anytime. We have good communication, so he could work with us on developing a plan. He's happy to do that.
Yeah.
So
We should know very soon, what is their timetable? Because it's gonna take a little bit to pull stuff together.
Charlie, I'm not up to speed on it, but I think their timetable is none. I think that they would like to get rid of it. It's a burden. But I don't think that they're ready to knock it down tomorrow.
Okay.
And I think if we went and talked to them, they might even help us develop a plan. They might just offer to help us do some planning in that thing. They got good people who do that kind of thing all the time.
And so I would say we'll definitely put it on the agenda for the next meeting. And if you guys want to come into my office anytime, schedule in, I can go over what we've done.
I'd like to do that.
Okay.
We should do all one time, Charlie.
Okay. Tom?
Tom Talamini, 23 Rice Road. I think it'd be a great time to have the guys from
and talk to us. We've been asking for that for over a year.
What an interesting idea.
Now would be a good time to, I mean, we got new members on the board, and they have questions. It would be a good time for them to come and speak.
Okay, we can,
I mean,
In the next 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
Trust them.
Tom, the only problem I have with that is, as you know, I've been on the 250th anniversary committee for a long time and kind of bowed out during the election period. I really don't know what to do with that. I was helping to get funding for it, and I don't really know what to do with that. Now that I'm a selectman, I'm not sure whether that means that I would be, you know, stepping out of bounds or not. But one of the things we had done, and I contacted the people at the Indian Nations 2 or 3 times, was to get us a substantial amount of money to make the 250th anniversary work. Now, you know, the Indian Nations, you know, $25,000 here and $25,000 there. My wife was down and loses that on a weekend, you know? Not really. But I think you have to prioritize what you're going to have those good people for. Or they're going to say, what are those guys doing?
we've been asking for this meeting for over a year.
yeah, no, this is UTC too. And,
This is UTC.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been asking for this meeting for well over a year.
With UTC?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
UTC and
USAP, whatever you.
and DEP. And
It's USAP, isn't it?
no reason why.
Utah, sorry.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been coming to these meetings for almost a year, and we've been asking for it for almost a year.
yeah. I think we can raise the question again.
I think it's time.
Mhm.
Either DEP and USAP,
Yeah.
or just one or the other.
Yeah.
We do that in January, the
Uh,
January meeting.
I will call them up in the next meeting, I'll give you an answer.
I know only one person left at the old Hamilton Standard Utah. She's a senior vice president. I could call her and see if she knew the right way to do it.
Well, we'll keep her in the wings, let me talk to
Yeah, no, I agree.
Bill Penn first, and then I'll, yeah.
Okay, Gil Hayes, 143 Rice Street. Forgive me for not standing up right now. Just want to congratulate the selectmen, all of you who won your elections. Mr. Sinansky and Mr. Hoffman have impressive resumes.
Thank you.
And you ran a very good campaign. Mr. Bowles has been here quite a while. I've known him for quite a while, since he first got out of college and started in this town politics. I want to especially congratulate him and ask him to help you new guys out. I sat in those seats. I was a new guy, and I got help. And also Steve Dearborn, who has some experience here. So I wish you well.
Thank you.
It's going to come fast and furious at first, but you'll get a hang of it, especially with the budget season coming at you. I'd like to see you help each other out.
It's good, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, further public participation.
Town meeting. The town meeting's in.
Thank you. At 7:30, which is now, we're going to have a town meeting. So we'll do that now, and we'll continue with public participation after the town meeting. Motion to recess for the moment.
So moved.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
All right.
And is the town, Joanne here? Joanne Slater? Okay, come on up. Yeah, you have to vacate the table.
Vacate the table.
Oh, you gotta get out here?
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
vacate.
Okay, I call this town meeting to order. The first order of business is to choose a moderator. And let me say, at this town meeting, all we're going to do is hopefully sell one piece of property. And so it's going to be a pretty simple meeting. So why don't we let someone else moderate it? Paul?
No.
I'd like to nominate Bob Maynard, moderator.
Okay, is there any other nominations? All those in favor?
Yeah, put me in as a second.
Yeah, Bill seconded. Okay. All those opposed? And I'm the moderator.
The nominations be closed.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And now the town clerk will read the meeting notice.
Town of East Windsor Public Town Meeting Notice. The legal voters of the Town of East Windsor are hereby warned that a town meeting will be held at the Town Hall, 11 Rye Street, Broadbrook, Connecticut, on Tuesday, November 21st, 2017, at 7:30 p.m. for the following. Item number 1, to consider and approve the sale of 4.42 acres on Winkler Road, map, block, lot 094/24/066 to Arvind Prasad in the amount of $25,000.
Okay. Go ahead. She's not through.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Dated at East Windsor, Connecticut, this 15th day of November 2017, East Windsor Board of Selectmen. Robert Maynard, First Selectman, Jason Bauza, Selectman, Steve Dearborn, Selectman, Dale Nelson, Selectman, Richard P. Pittman, Jr., Selectman.
Okay, usually we have someone read the motion, and would someone like to read the motion? Okay. First, before you read the motion, I'll say who's eligible to vote. And that's required that I read this, and it's just one sentence. And it's probably my favorite sentence because, well, you'll see why. At any town meeting other than a regular or special town election or any meeting of any fire, sewer, or school district or any other municipal subdivision of any town incorporated by any special act, any person who is elector of such town may vote, and any citizen of the United States of age 18 years or more who jointly or severally is liable to the town, district, or subdivision for taxes assessed against him on an assessment of not less than $1,000 on the last completed grand list of such town, district, or subdivision, or who would be liable if not entitled to an exemption under Connecticut statute, general statute subdivision 17, 19, 22, 23, 25, 26, or section 1281 may vote, unless restricted by provisions of any special act relating to such town, district, or subdivision. So there you have it. Can I entertain a motion?
Consider and approve the sale of 4.42 acres on Winkler Road, map/block/lot 094/24/066 to Arvind Prasad in the amount of $25,000. I move the foregoing resolution be adopted.
Is there a second? Okay, discussion.
The reason for the sale?
The reason for the sale is Patty here? No. It was foreclosed on and taken as a tax foreclosure property. Now this property, it says 4.4 acres, but it's a very funny piece of property. It's long and narrow. And the reason for the sale is the town's not making any money on this, not getting any taxes for it. And the person who wants to buy this land says he wants to build, I believe it's an 8,000 square foot house on it. And our tax collector says if anybody wants to build an 8,000 square foot house on property that we're not getting any taxes for, let's sell them the property and collect the taxes. So it's a good deal for the town. That's why we're selling it.
Appraised value is?
Appraised value is virtually nothing. That's why it was foreclosed. This person, we're not sure if he's going to take this property or not. There's some clauses in there that he can, I think he's going to do perk testing and things like that. If it fails, if he can't build that large house, then he will not buy the property. And we've had another person who offered us, and I'm not sure the amount, but it was less, and he backed out of the deal because he was having a problem with the property. So it's a win for us if we can sell this property. Keith?
Was it advertised for sale, or are these people that came in and just paid off?
No, we have, what we did, it's been on the market for well over a year now, and we have 2 real estate agents that we went through an RFP process and narrowed it down to 2, and they're the ones that give us the best return, charge us the least to do it, and I'm not sure who the real estate, one of the 2 is the real estate agent for this.
Could you somehow describe where this property is? I mean,
Yeah,
you have a plan.
yeah, it's on Winkler Road.
Yeah.
And it goes from Winkler, and it goes, like I said, it's a long skinny piece of property. It goes probably up to the railroad track, or the trolley track from Winkler Road.
Bob, isn't it right across the road from BB's?
Yep.
Just about, yeah. Okay, any further discussion? Yes.
Glenn Moll, 29 Drone. How can you say it's worthless? It's appraised at $82,000.
Oh, Carol, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with the property, but okay.
I'm not familiar with the property. I mean, certainly I can look at it tomorrow, but.
No, I can say that we have been trying to sell it. It's a valid question. The prior owner didn't want to pay taxes on it because he couldn't sell it. And what the tax collector did say is, I'll repeat myself and say that if somebody will take that piece of property for $25,000 and build on it, a very costly house, the amount we get in taxes would be great. It would be, right now we're getting nothing, and if this person doesn't take it, we won't get anything, and there's no guarantee we will get anything. So we think it's a good deal.
I'm sorry, did you say it was 25 or 45?
$25,000.
25.
Further discussion?
Does that cover the taxes that are in the rears?
No.
25,000?
No, it doesn't. It's just the sale of the property. Keith?
So on the same issue, does the buyer take it subject to taxes, or are the taxes part of the 25,000,
He won't assume past taxes due. He will start paying taxes once he owns the property.
So there's no more prior taxes due on the property?
They're due, but uncollectible. They're foreclosed. We foreclosed.
So that's what I was asking, the prior taxes, this person's gonna take it without any taxes due?
Right.
And it'll be taxes going forward?
That's correct. Maria?
Could you say that motion again, because I don't think that motion is really clarified for somebody that's not here tonight to know that there's gonna be caveats. Just because we say we're gonna sell the property to somebody, they may not. Should that be put in that motion?
I don't have the caveats in front of me. There is a caveat in the deed that says if certain conditions are not met, he can back out of the deal. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, so.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, town meeting is over. Thank you.
Thanks, bye. Yeah.
Saturday, come with us.
This way, it's gonna be, yes, that's right. So I read the information. No problem.
I'm the chief of staff at legislative I'm the number two person.
Looking forward to this.
It's coming.
I know.
Pretty fun.
I try to come every year.
Resume is 35.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's the nature of the beast. All jobs are temporary.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to reconvene the Board of Selectmen meeting.
So moved.
Second? Jim, do you second it?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public participation. Is there further public participation? Scott?
Scott Morgan, 106 South Main Street. I just wanted to say that I had applied for the zoning board of appeals. I was elected as an alternate member back in 2011. There was a vacancy. The person that had been a regular member was not able to fill the term, so I ended up taking over that seat. I've been on it since then, and with a little miscommunication, mess up the paperwork. I had to apply for alternate position, so I'm just hoping that I'd be approved for a regular member. Thank you.
Further public participation? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to board and commission resignations and appointments. I would entertain, if somebody could just make motions and second the list, and we'll discuss where it's needed. So I would entertain a motion to accept Kathy Villadou's resignation from the Ethics Commission.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion for Robert Leach. Somebody move to accept the resignation of Robert Leach from from the Parks and Recreation Commission. Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Only that custom shows that when we accept resignations, we generally do it with regret, and I think that's appropriate in this case as well.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Reappointments. Robert, a motion, I would entertain a motion to appoint Robert Cormier to the regular member for the Elderly Commission, term expiring 12/31/2019. Do I hear a motion? Second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. For the Elderly Commission, I would entertain a motion to appoint Claire Bastedner, regular member, the term expiring 12/31/2019. 2019.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll say, welcome, Claire. I'm glad you're being part of the Elderly Commission. I know you've done it for a yeoman's job for many years. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Now the East Windsor Housing Authority. I would entertain a motion to appoint Marie D'Souza, a regular member, for a term expiring 12/1/2022.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And I just want to say that I had some letters of support for Marie D'Souza, and one is from the members of Park Hill, the residents, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 signatures on the recommendation. I think, for me, that's a record. I've never seen so many people supporting a member. A lot of support for the board, but not written. So, all those in favor? Or if there's any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Water Pollution Control Authority. I would entertain a motion to appoint Kurt Monstream, a regular member, expiring 10/1/2022.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Also for water pollution, David Tyler, regular member, for a term expiring 10/1/2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, new appointments, Capital Improvement Planning Committee. Rand Stanley, for a term expiring 10/3/2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
I have a question there.
Sure.
I understand the people who are being, re-nominated and returned to a board. When it comes to a new person, does the chairman of that committee or commission have the opportunity to interview these people and make sure that they talk about the philosophy each one of them has and that they're a fit?
I would say yes. And if a new member is appointed to a board, that process should be gone through. The chairman of the board should be contacted.
And does it?
Well, with this particular board, the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, there is no board and there is no chairman. So what Rand does is he's becoming the 6th member of this board. So, and we need 6.
I really wasn't interested in this particular one,
Yeah.
but just a general question
Yes.
as to whether the person who is the chairman has the right or is allowed to talk to a person.
Yes.
And make a recommendation to the board or to you as to whether they're a good fit for the commission or committee.
Yes, definitely. I'm not sure if we reached out to these people, though. Cox, now the Cox Cable Advisory Council, Elizabeth Burns. So I'd entertain a motion to...
We didn't do Rand Stanley.
Oh, we didn't say Rand Stanley, sorry. Is there any further discussion about Rand Stanley?
So are we all concerned with town employees and union presidents serving on appointed boards?
I'm not.
It's conflict of interest, isn't it?
I mean, that's a legitimate point. How do you reconcile that?
The reason I'm not concerned is that Joe Sauerhofer was the the
It doesn't
president
make
of
it
the
right.
state.
It was also a conflict of interest.
And he was also appointed to it prior to becoming a town employee.
Two rights don't make a wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, is this public participation?
I didn't think so,
I
but,
didn't think so.
I think we can vote. We know Rand, we know what he does. We know that we need a sixth member on the board of the Capital Improvement Committee. So we'll vote, and you certainly can vote no. That's not a problem. So is there further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed?
No.
Fair enough. Okay, now moving on to Cox Cable Advisory Council. I would entertain a motion to appoint Elizabeth Burns, a regular member, term expiring 11/21/2019.
So moved.
The second?
Second.
Discussion.
Could you tell me what exactly does that advisory council do? What's the purpose of that?
First of all, I'll be glad to speak.
If you can speak, that would be good.
Okay, first of all, we're a reappointment, not a new appointment. What happened is the town never let us know we were over. Okay, we never got any letters or any notification. So James came up here one day to do something, and he, for whatever reason, found out that we had not been reappointed, nor had anybody notified us that we needed to refile. So we did. So we've been serving on it. James has been serving on it since he graduated high school. Okay, and I got him involved when he was 15 and learning about Cox Cable, and he actually does camera work there, sound work there, graphic work there. He still does it today, okay? And so we've all been serving on it for more than 15 years, representing this town. It originally was a monthly meeting because DPUC at the time required that. When Cox Cable went in, approximately 8 years ago now, because they're in their 15-year stretch before they have to go back, 8 years of it. Cox Cable, the company itself, got DPUC to agree that we only had to meet twice a year. And we fought that. We fought and said the monthly meetings to make Cox Communication accountable to public access. We represent the public access. That means you have the right to go there and put on a program of the 10 towns. So that's what we represent. We're East Windsor's representatives at it. We also had wanted, and again, DPUC did away with it, that they still should do free drops to the town buildings, town organizations that came under the Board of Selectmen. They also did away with that. So we meet twice a year, and we try to make Cox accountable to the citizens of the 10 towns that they oversee. And that's what we do. And we have a very good chair out of Suffield, Alex, and he meets on the there's a wider advisory council of all the councils in Connecticut, and there are 6 councils in Connecticut.
That's not controlled by legislation by the state that they have to provide that?
The state said it was DPUC, and DPUC made the decisions.
Yeah.
And we fought it back to say they should be required to meet with us monthly.
No, what I'm saying, if you feel you're providing input that they act on what you're telling them?
Let's put it this way, we keep them accountable when we have these meetings. And they have to provide us with information. So they do send the vice president, Peter Talbot, and he does come and provide us with information, and I can tell you at our last meeting that we had, the way of everything that's going in technology, eventually Cox Cable will be totally tech, and we're trying to make them still say that they have to have a public access component of it. But it's going like a Netflix, it's going like all of those. That's their future.
Are they willing to work with the towns with?
So let me put it this way. Right now, they say they will, but if they don't have the voices from the towns, so we keep the voice going, and we still have public access. There's still the studio in Enfield that you can go, anybody here in this room can go and put on a show. And they will give you the technical help that you need. That's what public access is all about.
And they really will do that?
Absolutely. And we keep them on task with
Has
that.
anybody from town here done that? I know that the Summers Historical Society is on there.
Yes, they are.
And they go through a number of things that they have in their town and so forth. It's quite interesting sometimes. Has anybody ever done that from this town?
Scott Riak has puts on a program, I think it's,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how frequently, but, so that's one person that does that.
And there have been other people that have done one-shot deals, meaning in other words, they put on and it's been televised. And we just did the candidates. Yeah, we did the candidates for Board of Selectmen and Board of Education and Board of Finance. And I was a part of the technical crew, just like James was a part of the technical crew. We all go there and try to help when we can. And James goes regularly. I go on special projects and so.
Well,
Just
thank
so
you.
give
You've
you a
told
little
us,
idea.
told me a lot more than I knew, and you're now a resource, so we can certainly
Yes.
avail ourselves. So, is there further discussion? All those in favor of appointing Elizabeth to the Cable Advisory, Cox Cable Advisory Council?
Aye.
Okay. Entertain a motion to appoint James Cloutier to the Cox Cable Advisory Council, term expiring 11/21/2019. Will somebody make that motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Board of Finance. Barbara Pantano, alternate member for a term expiring 11/5/2019. Would somebody make that motion?
Just by way of discussion, there's one vacancy, correct?
Don't know about that. Yes, there's two alternates and there's one vacancy, so that's correct.
So I move to appoint Alan Baker to a term as an alternate on the Board of Finance for a term expiring 11/5/2019.
Okay, we're going out of order, and that's fine. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there discussion?
I'm not sure, so the position which is being vacated was won by a Republican, and I'm not sure that you can flip party control in a vacancy. I think it needs to be either of the same party or an unaffiliated voter, which is why I don't think you can flip it from a D to an R. The alternative would be for that seat to become vacated and for a special election to be called, which takes 45 days from the point of vacating. So I just would just point out, I don't believe you can flip party control at an appointment. I think that's a statutory.
I believe the other alternative is a Republican at this point. I think it's,
There's a D or a U?
Right here, I think we can only appoint one of those two.
Correct.
I think there is an alternate already appointed, who is a Republican.
Correct. But the Board of Finance alternate is a separate board elected separately from the Board of Finance, and minority representation, which is what you're referring to, only comes into play for boards of 3 or more. The Board of Finance alternate is a board of 2, therefore it does not apply.
But I think it would be fair to have a Democrat or unaffiliated, an alternate on the Board of Finance.
As a Democrat, I agree with that. I just don't believe that that's legal.
Well, then we'll have to postpone these appointments and get a legal opinion.
Or we could appoint the person who does qualify.
I don't think, I would oppose that. I would say that we can't exclude a person because of your understanding of the legality of the situation. I don't understand that legality. I'm just,
Since it's my board, sorry.
yes?
Okay. I think he's 100% correct, as we fell into this 2 years ago, if you remember correctly, when we lost one of our alternates too, and we could not appoint an R for a D or a D for an R. I'm uncertain about the U. I think you're right about the U. But if you're uncertain, I would say you can't do anything until you find out. I would be comfortable with the U. I know it has to be an R for an R though, or a U. It can't be a D, because we went through this because you guys didn't run anybody. And then that person stepped down, and then we couldn't find anybody. We ran for actually a long time without one, because we couldn't find anybody.
Okay.
So.
Since you're the chairman, and Andy brought that up, if you would be comfortable with Alan and don't...
I'm fine with, yeah, a U, it's either an R or a U, it can't be a D, because I remember wondering why the D didn't run.
Yeah.
So. And I remember we did this 2 years ago.
Okay.
Same scenario.
Thank you. So I would withdraw my objection, so that's fine. So we're discussing it. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So Alan Baker is the alternate. Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency. I entertain a motion to appoint Richard Pippin for a term expiring 11/1/2021.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. And is there any discussion? Go ahead, Steve.
This is kind of my opinion here on this one. We just went through an election. The public spoke. Mr. Pippin lost. And for me to vote to put this person on any commission or board at this time, to me, would be going against the will of the people. So that's where I stand.
Okay. Further discussion?
I don't agree, Steve. We're talking apples and oranges. In one case, you're talking Board of Selectmen, and here you're talking wetlands, and I think they are vastly different. And I really do think, I think Dick's a hard-working guy, and I believe that it is not reasonable to exclude him because he lost in the election, in the primary.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Charlie, you're in favor? Or not? I didn't hear your vote.
I'm not, I'm just not familiar enough with this inland wetlands and how many people are on there and what is it that they're gonna do,
Well,
Are they short members?
Yes. We're short members.
Okay. That's right, you're on the inland wetlands.
Yep, we're short members.
And I'd say this is a critical thing because with the MMCT building, there seems to be wetlands down there, so their discussion of that's going to be very important. And so that's what they do. If you want to abstain, you can abstain. That's fine.
Yeah.
I guess I'll vote for him, so I can. So that gives us a 3, a majority. In fact, 2 to 1. Yeah. Okay. And finally, the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I would entertain a motion to appoint Scott Morgan, a regular member, for a term expiring 11/5/2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Scott's the,
I'm opposed.
okay, and Charlie?
I'm in favor.
Okay. Now we'll move on to unfinished business. East Windsor 250th anniversary. A long wait, huh?
Really long wait. All right, so we have the Masquerade Ball, December 31st. We have sold about 60 tickets so far. We have 200 total, so if you would like to get tickets, just let me know. Tables of 10 if you want to have a group table. And we have the masks ordered, so if you don't have your own mask, we do provide masks at the ball. And we are getting calendars made up, and those should hopefully be here within the next 2 weeks. And I believe they're going to be $15, but I need to double check on that. So they will make great Christmas presents. So they will be at the town hall and the libraries and everything for sale, so as well as the Masquerade Ball. So
What was the date on that?
Masquerade Ball is December 31st for New Year's Eve.
And I believe it's $95 ticket for the
Yep.
Masquerade Ball. And are the tickets being sold in the town hall?
Nope, tickets are just being sold by me and Lonote.
Okay, and that's fine, but if you're worried if it's 2 weeks before the ball, we haven't sold out, then maybe we could help you sell the tickets.
I mean, we have flyers around, so
Okay.
we should be good, so.
Is there any chance that you could get out to places like the grocery stores?
Geisler's has a flyer up. Someone took one for Big Y. I don't know if they actually got there to hang it up or not. I haven't been able to check. And then people have been taking flyers at the meeting to put up at breakfast places and around town at other businesses and stuff. So
Would the stores be willing to sell tickets for them?
they're not going to be selling tickets for us. They can't do that for Lenote's request. So
Where is this being held?
at Lenote in the industrial park.
Can you give a little more detail about it? I mean, is it $95? What? is it?
5-hour open bar, starts at 7, goes till 1 a.m., full hors d'oeuvres, happy hour, and then a full meal and dessert and snacks, champagne toast at midnight, and midnight munchies, and dancing, photos. We're going to have a photo booth set up. We'll have a raffle table going on, and that's about it. So it's going to be a full fun night.
Yeah, and I would just follow up and say $95, to some people might sound like a lot, but if you tried to go out on New Year's Eve,
yeah.
that's a very reasonable price. So, and for what you're getting, it's very, very reasonable. So I would encourage people to, I know I bought tickets, but it's kind of hard to buy tickets through you in a sense.
Or Lenote, I mean.
Yeah, but,
They don't want us to sell it other places, so.
okay, that's fine.
The calendar. Tell me about the calendar, because that's a new, we haven't talked about that before.
It's not here. At our meetings we have. It's going to be like a collage of a bunch of pictures that the Historical Society had, and some like more recent updated ones. It's going to have a list of, every month it has events that are either for 250 or other events from other organizations in town. They'll be on the calendar if I've been notified of them.
Rebecca,
Just a basic calendar.
I have a question. People say.
I'm good, thank you.
What about working with Liz to get Cox to put you on their public access?
So I did not know that committee council existed because they're not on the town website at all.
Mhm.
So I didn't know they were a thing, but now that I do know, and I do have your contact.
Is that possible, Liz, to get Rebecca on?
Yeah, I have her contact information, so
Yes.
now that I know that that's something that we can use, we can certainly
We come in.
reach out, so. Yeah.
I have a question on fundraising. Have we reached out to the Indian nations again?
Yep.
Recently?
I've been in contact with Connor on and off, so we're still in contact with them.
Do you think it looks good there?
Yep, I think so. We'll find out.
And how about Southern Autos?
I've talked to him.
And you think that he will help too?
I hope so. He sounded very positive about it. I know that he's still busy with the Veterans Memorial, so he needed some time off to finish that up, so. All right, that's all I have. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, thank you.
Just to note that that starts our celebration for the 250th.
The Masquerade Ball is our
The
kickoff.
masquerade is the kickoff, and then we have events all year long until,
September 22nd for East Windsor Heritage Day.
and then we also have the New Year's Day hike. Day after New Year's.
I bought the tickets, I don't know if I can make it to the hike.
The hike's at 1, you'll be able to make
The
it.
hike's at 1.
Yeah.
New bridge, open bar.
They got a new bridge.
I don't know about the hike.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next unfinished business is the Casino Impact Fund. I'll first start by, again, introducing David Capiello, if you could stand up. He's our new contact for MMCT. And do you have anything you want to say, or just carry on?
Carry on.
I have been in contact with MMCT, and it looks like things are moving. And if I had to guess, I'd say that we might see the Showcase Cinema demolition permit come in after the first of the year. So I think they're moving. There's been some negative publicity out there, but I don't think it's really slowed them down at all. So I was glad to see that. Okay, the Impact Fund. What I've been doing is talking to people about the Impact Fund. I know the Board of Finance created an Impact Fund. I talked to the senior staff and discussed with them, and I also discussed with, before that, the Board of Finance, and Bill Syme gave a very good idea. He said, why don't you ask for the request and see what you get? And so I did. And I was at the senior staff meeting. I asked for requests from all the departments. And what I had, so in your packet is a lot of the requests I got. And they're very interesting. It was a good exercise to go through. I got some more late today and yesterday, so I'll pass out those so you can look over the late ones. And the reason I'm doing this is just to, I'm getting input, and we're going to have to, if we want to have a separate fund, and I think we all do, or a majority of us do, we're going to have to pass a resolution establishing that fund. So that's one, or not a resolution, an ordinance. And maybe the ordinance will be more than one ordinance. So if we want to change a part of it, we don't have to readdress the whole thing, but just the part we want to change. But let me pass this out. This is what the East Windsor Ambulance Association gave us. This is what the Building Department gave us. And this is what I give you, and that's for really for a consultant to do a financial impact study. And in particular, I broke out the human services. I don't think there's anybody here to speak for human services, but I'll pass that out. And this is a spreadsheet I made. And I put on the spreadsheet a summary, and there's something on the back too, of what I got out of the requests. And a couple things I noticed in the requests. I'm glad it was a good exercise. That I asked for just upfront payments. I didn't ask for annual or ongoing payments. And for those who aren't familiar, what the agreement says is 15 months before the casino's opens, they'll give us $3 million impact. And then 30 days after it opens, they'll start giving us annual payments of $3 million. And so our job is to decide whether we want it in a separate fund or not, and I think we do. And then we have to determine how we're going to go about requesting the money and distributing that money or allocating that money. When I read these requests, and I asked for just up front, a lot of the requests kind of muddied the two. There was a difference between, they didn't distinguish between what they wanted for annual payments and what they wanted for upfront. So obviously some more clarification will have to be. And also, I realized too, when I looked at this, that I think we need a format because they're so dissimilar. It's really hard to compare one request to another request. And I fell back on the format of the budget request that we have, and that's when I presented this one that says from the first selectman, and it requests $100,000 for a consultant to do a financial impact study. But this is just, what I'm doing is sharing information with you. We'll discuss it, I guess, at every Board of Selectmen meeting until we actually craft something, an ordinance, and I said, we'll talk about next steps. Happy to listen to any input that you want to give me. I'm kind of anticipating once we get close to deciding how we want to approach this, we'll have a public hearing and let everybody give us input to it. So that's where we are, and I would be happy to listen to anything you have to say now or at any time. You can give me input to this, because what we're really trying to do is put together an ordinance to handle these $3 million payments.
I believe that most of the ordinances are probably a good idea, because you can segregate those things that are related to each other. I really believe the first one we should deal with is one that just tells how we're going to bank the money. If we get the $3 million, does it go into the general fund? Does it go into a separate fund and held forever in that fund and used out of that fund and never commingled with the general fund? I think that if the first ordinance did that and did it properly, and we went to the town voters with that, that they would see that we are serious about controlling this money in some manner that would be productive for the town. There are cases over and over again where there are good intentions with specific monies being allocated to something, and then they somehow magically get to the general fund and they're never seen again. And I think the contributions that the Indian nations made to the state of Connecticut are a shining example. That was supposed to go for some educational fund of some kind in the infinite wisdom of the people. In our legislature, they allowed it to get into the general fund, and God knows where it is now. I just don't think that this money should be handled that way.
I agree with what you're saying, and just another observation I made is that there's when I totaled the requests, it was for about $4.3 million, so the request exceeded our fund. And I suspect that it will be that way for quite a while, and for the annual payments too. So I think that there was talk, I think, early on, if the fund exceeded $5 million, then maybe we'd spill some of it into the general fund. But I think that's a decision that can be made in the future, because I don't see it getting near that in the immediate present.
The presumption there is that everything on this list is merited.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right.
And I think to find that out, we have to have the people who are requesting it propose what they want to do with that money in detail, in some format that makes it understandable, comparing one to the other. Then I think the board can decide which is the most important and begin to prioritize things. And then you can decide that because of the prioritization, that items 1 through 5 are going to be dealt with this year. We're going to hold in reserve for some unforeseen emergency, I don't know, $250,000 or something like that. If something really bad happens, I don't think that the general fund should be burdened with any aspect that arises from an impact of the casinos. I think that the $3 million gift is something that is really good, and I think we have to treat it in a manner that keeps it segregated.
I agree with what you're saying. The only criticism I would say is, let's not call it a gift, let's call it a hosting fee.
Well,
I'm just,
whatever,
yeah.
my words.
Semantics. But I think some people are asking for more than, like I said, they mixed annual payments with, and also, so you're right, there's going to have to be some, I think, some screening to some degree. I think some people will, I mean, I believe the police are definitely an area where funds have to be put into the police department.
Agreed.
So, but others maybe not need, maybe, so we have to really look closely at the amount we have and as you say, prioritize, and even the amount that each department is asking for and what they're going to do with it. So there's a lot of work to go into, and we have to first, as you were saying, maybe we should make some examples, because we have to develop a process. And I agree that we should have an ordinance, and more than one ordinance probably, that deals with this money, and the first ordinance should put it in a separate fund. The next ordinances are more complex, and they should define a process to distribute this money to.
And I think, Bob, they should be confined to some reasonably small area that relates to each other. You don't want to have something that deals with, well, I'm not even sure what I'm talking about here, but deals with an area that has a relationship to, has no relationship to this over here. It would be a shame to hold up this over here, because there's great question here. So I think we have to, pick our way. We're going to ask for proposals from various departments and commissions and whatever in our town government.
Yeah, and so these requests that were given to us are a good starting point, because now we have something concrete, a straw man to look at and change our ideas from.
Is now the appropriate time to write an RFP, something that defines how we want to have the departments proposed?
If you want to help me with it.
I'd be glad to.
Okay, we could, for the next meeting, we could solidify it a little more and give a little more specific example. Charlie?
Yeah, this is not very clear to me, in that you had sent out and had gotten this information back from the different departments as to what they think their incremental cost is going to be for the casino, correct?
Correct.
And yet, when you were negotiating with the casino, that you negotiated to get $3 million.
Right.
And that you had numbers before from different departments.
Right.
Right? So now, that's a million three more.
Right.
Than what you negotiated for.
Well, in a sense.
This other paper that I have here from you, it says the purpose of this request to provide funds to hire a consultant to do a financial impact study.
Right.
So That's what should have been done at the start, an independent financial impact study. And that's what needs to be done now. Because you have to have someone who has expertise in those compartments to look and see what is, if you're hiring, making up a number, 6 police officers, what's the attrition rate over this period, how many more does that take, and how does that build into the numbers, et cetera, and what is the need actually for this, and that's where a consultant comes in. So you have this written out here, but there's nothing further on that, and yet we've got $4.3 million, and the kitty only has 3.
And,
so,
right.
So what is the direction here? I don't know about a plan until, where the money should go, until we really iron down what the needs really are, and to have that from an independent source. So where are we with this?
Well, and we are where you see us, and that's, and your question, where are we, is probably a very valid question. We don't know where we are. But we're beginning, but we're moving forward, and Andy and I might be able to put something together. But there's other, in that information too, there's things to consider. We're going to build a casino. And 15 months before the casino opens, we're going to get $3 million. But I have a feeling, and I believe, that before we get that $3 million, we got to start spending money now. And the only way that I could see to do that is to get a supplemental appropriation. And maybe we can have conditions that when we get the $3 million, we'll put the money back into the fund balance on the general fund from the $3 million. But I think we got to spend money now, and so that's something that we as a board will have to determine. And we can request, and we do have a strong fund balance of probably almost $1 million. So we have money that we should use to better the town. I have a fear that the state might realize that we have some extra money and decide that they have need of it too. But
so are you saying then that we should appropriate money for a consultant to do this impact?
Yeah, and I'm also saying maybe we need it for some building, but maybe not. Well, for this, when the demolition permit comes in, we're going to get, I guess, something like $230,000 for that permit. But Trump,
zero, it's 2.4. It's 2.4 million on the permit.
Not the demolition permit.
The building construction permit.
The construction permit. But I'm saying the first thing we're going to get is a demolition permit. And that'll be about $230,000. But that money goes into the general fund. That's it's just a revenue source. The building department's a revenue source. And so it goes into the general fund. We haven't budgeted any money to spend now to approve and monitor the destruction and demolition in the building. So we really need that money now, and we can't get it from the building permits until the budget is, until we're well along in the project. So that's another area where we maybe need supplemental appropriation and to be reimbursed from.
I also think we need to be very careful here, because we all read about what happened in East Hartford. And that project, they started that, they had the machines there and the groundbreaking, and that just all fell apart.
Right.
And this, from what I've read, is not a done deal. And before we start spending a lot of, but at least, I feel strongly we should have an independent financial impact study done to what these are, to say, is this correct? If it is, then we didn't negotiate the right number. Right?
Well,
am I right? I mean,
well, yes, I agree with what you're saying, but we negotiated what it is what it is. We're getting $3 million a year, we're getting the casino, we've got a development agreement, so to say what we should have done isn't gonna help. We have to say what we're gonna
You
do.
can do it now.
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. The impact study would be very good. Yes. And I hesitate to do it at this table right now, but we could. We could make a motion to do a supplemental appropriation for $100,000 to do an impact study on the casino, if you want to. If we could make that motion and pass it tonight, we could wait 2 weeks and pass it at our next meeting.
Well, I think a motion should be made to have some investigation, some review of consulting firms immediately and get their opinion as to what that would cost. Just pass it for $100,000 and it's 112, or it's not, that doesn't make sense to me. But they should be able to give an estimate. This is what we're looking to do. This is pretty straightforward stuff. So I think you should be empowered to reach out to consultants and have them point you in the right direction to those that are best qualified to do.
We need a work statement for that, don't we, Charlie? To go out to consulting companies?
To go out to bid, you will.
Yeah, to out to
but
bid.
at least to talk with them now. We can certainly do that. That doesn't commit us to anything. But I think that's a high priority in my estimation.
I agree.
Okay.
It has to be done.
Okay, then let's make a motion. You can make the motion, Charlie. I move to authorize the first selectman.
I make a motion to authorize the first selectman to contact consulting firms regarding the financial impact study and get, what they're recommending at this juncture before it goes to RFP.
What does that mean? I don't follow with that. So you want to do essentially like a pre-RFP?
No.
I don't understand what you're trying to do.
Well, before you buy something, you generally want to talk with somebody. Is this your expertise? If it's not, then who is it? And you talk with them, and they give you a ballpark as to what it would cost to get that information.
He's talking about a bid conference.
Yeah, what's about the bid?
A bid conference is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
You write some kind of a minimal statement of work, and you get as many of the right people in as you can, and you do what Charlie says, you discuss the problem with them, see what you can get for input.
Peg, how you doing on that motion?
What do you mean, you guy, you fell asleep back here?
Consulting firms regarding the financial impact study, the recommendations prior to going out to RFP. Okay?
Yes, although, yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Steve, what do you do? Reading the police report?
Tell you what, boy, there's a lot of fluff in there.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of fluff.
But we have a motion on the table to hire, just authorize me to look for a consultant.
I think it should be looked into.
Okay. And Jason?
No.
Okay, so motion passes. Any further discussion on the casino impact fund? Yeah?
This right here, what we got tonight, with all this wish, the wish list, a lot of this is not much different than what we saw when we first sat down with them on the wish list,
Yes.
I mean, this is, in my opinion, a lot of it is crazy, plain and simple.
I think, Steve, that's why you have to have some format for each one of the departments to give you their input with details of where they're going to spend the money, so that we can take a look at it. Because you're right, one number can be fluff. The other thing is, what's the time phasing of that? Do they want $1 million right up front, or do they want it phased over 3 or 4 years?
There's a lot of work to be,
But I don't understand why everybody thinks that this casino is gonna be a problem. I don't get it. I don't get it. They're gonna take care of their own inside. They're not gonna want any problems getting outside the building for the public to know about. They're gonna take care of it, okay? I mean, I don't get this stuff, and, I'm gonna make it known right up front right now. I'm not voting for any of this. When there's a problem, we'll address it. I don't think there's gonna be a problem. That's my opinion.
But I think you have to have some kind of an understanding behind each one of those numbers.
I know, I know what some of those numbers mean.
Do you know how they're built up? That's my question.
Okay? Don't tell me we need all these people for that building. Don't tell me that.
Okay, well, let me say this.
I wasn't born yesterday.
Yeah, Steve, I have been in negotiations now, labor negotiations. And sometimes the person you're negotiating it with comes in with a ridiculous number, and you just say, that's ridiculous. But you don't shut down the negotiation. I think a lot of those numbers are a starting point, just like you said. When we went to them to have our first offer and negotiated with the tribal nations, we had a lot of fluff in our first offer. And actually, they came back and said, we're not going to give you any annual payments. We're going to just give you the taxes, and we'll give you $3 million. So, and they said also, so they said, we don't care what you use it for. Just give us the money. Tell us what you'd settle for. So our impact study, or what all the research we did to figure out where we had to be, went out the window at the beginning of our negotiations. But I think a lot of that, what you're reading here, are some entities think that they're in a negotiation with God knows who, but we only got $3 million, and we have to figure out a process to really prioritize it, so it really, we use the money, the impact money, to improve and to ensure that the casino has a good impact on East Windsor, and that's what we're about, and the money should be in a separate fund, so.
And the thing is, for each one of those line items, which means nothing, I agree with Steve, it's probably got a lot of fluff in it, in any one of them. But in order to intelligently understand those and be convinced by whatever department it is that they're the right numbers, I think we have to have some mechanism by which we make them give us the detail behind each one of those numbers, and then we can question the need for it. You were saying that you don't see a need for additional security, I guess.
Yeah, not at this time.
And I agree, well, I kind of agree with that, not at this time. We're 2 years away from a casino at the very best. And I think that the Indian nations do, in fact, take care of a lot of their security, on their own. But having said that, I'll bet you that when all is said and done, traffic and other things is going to require some additional police officers to take care of that. And I think that we have to be in a position to have talked to the police department, having come up with an agreement with the police department, and then we fund it when they need it. But we don't fund it tomorrow, because they don't need it tomorrow.
Okay. I think we've kind of beaten the dead horse here, so if nobody else wants to put some in, we're going to deal with it every meeting until we get somewhere. We're going to do some groundwork in between meetings to advance us. So is there anything anybody else wants to say? You can say it in public participation. Appreciate your enthusiasm. But okay, let's move on to new business, appointment of a deputy town fire marshal. I would entertain a motion to appoint Blaine Simpkins, the deputy fire marshal for the town.
There's no salary.
Okay, and there's no salary.
I'm a typist. Hired.
So, Would somebody make that motion?
Oh,
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. In the deputy's position, what does that mean? What is the role, what is the responsibility?
Well, that's the way the chain of command goes. First you got the fire marshal, then you got the deputy. So if the fire marshal's not around, I'll fill in for him. Right now, I just do all the typing for the fire marshal. So.
Okay.
And the fire marshal is his son, so
Yeah.
they communicate pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
Is there certifications that are needed?
I've got it all.
You have all that. So
I've been doing this for over 30 years.
Yeah.
So I felt it was time to step back.
You have to go to training for those
Oh, yeah.
certifications?
That's indicated on the fire marshal reports. We didn't send you one or Andy one because we didn't have your town emails.
Yeah.
But Jason has one, Steve has one, First Selectman has one. We send a report every month. It indicates how many hours of training you get per month. What schools we go to. You're required to do 90 hours in 3 years. Every year you do 30 hours you have to have. So, it's interesting.
Is that's the fire marshal and the deputy also?
Yeah, oh yeah. both
Require
are,
training? And that's because of changes in regulation and so on?
Yeah, yeah. They found years ago that, this started back when, remember Chubby Steiger when he was fire marshal? That's why he retired, because they mandated schools, so. Because people weren't getting up on various code changes and building changes and things like that. So.
Okay, further discussion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's see. Is the town assessor here? I think she escaped.
Yes, she got called away.
She just walked out.
Okay, well,
How about the police department?
I think did she leave permanently?
I'll go get her.
Oh, no, okay. Okay.
You can go in order. Yeah, you can go.
She's doing paperwork.
How about skipping the D while we're here?
Well, I think that approving the memorandum with the pump station is a quick one. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's all this is.
And while we're here. Okay, here's something that was in your packet that goes with Carol's report. Oh, you didn't get that? Okay. Okay, Carol, you're up.
I'm sorry.
That's it.
Is this my house?
What, the assessment?
Is it high enough?
What I got in the email was 25.
No, jack it up, please.
Can we vote on that? I move.
I'll second.
You have the report for this month relating to the work that's going on in the office. The work goes on. The notices, as you all know, have went out Friday. And the office has been busy. And my downtime has been busy. So it's been an interesting process again this year. This, I think, is my fourth one. So, I don't know if you folks have any questions. We did leave for you the example, but didn't realize that the notices would be able to go out as quickly as they did. So obviously, my thought is, while I was at work here this evening, I thought to myself, with our Facebook friends, with the social media we have, I felt that we needed to maybe put some verbiage out from the town assessor's office and relay to them on social media so that it reiterates what's in here and they reach out and schedule hearings if that's what they wish to do. Put that information out at that level. I don't know how you folks feel about that.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do too.
So I thought Facebook.
Facebook and the
I'll talk to
website.
Heidi tomorrow,
Yeah.
and I'll draft a memo and we'll get it out there.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay,
Now, can I ask a question about the assessment?
absolutely.
Overall, did it decrease a lot? You know, building for building kind of thing, or not, or what?
On the residential side, we lost roughly 2 to 3%. And of course, that's a balance. Some gave, some lost.
Right.
On the commercial side, we went up roughly 4%. And again, this is all speculation. We're still dancing this dance. We've released numbers. We've based our values based on what we have received in the office for income proof, for values that we are secure in the market, using the cap rates that are allowed to be used, based on the structure's use and the consistency of that type of business.
The reason that the residential went down is that the market is down, or the houses are getting older, or both.
The market is what it is, and it's a funny thing, the raised ranches did well this year, where in the past I have not seen that. Condominiums, mine went down 4.8.
Really?
A good number of them went down more than that. Newberry Village held its value, as I warned Bob before he
Didn't
got
not
his
only hold it held its value, went up.
Just so you know. And, I mean, the joke was that I simply raised his because he was the first selectman he should probably pay for. That's not true.
So the net difference then, one is 4, one is down 2 or 3? I don't know what.
I don't know what the end result's gonna be.
Okay.
No one's gonna know that until our hearings are over, until we set everything in stone. We apply exemptions. Remember, we're only looking at the value side here.
Yeah.
We're not looking at what veterans exemptions are gonna do, homeowners benefits are gonna do. This is a downslide, you know?
So you're saying raised ranches are worth more than most
Raised
houses?
ranches were worth more. They, let's put it this way, the market was better on there than on the other houses.
Well, I
Just
guess-
happened to be.
I guess lucky me then, huh?
I don't know, did yours go up? I didn't look at
Yeah,
yours.
it did go
It
up.
did. I'm sorry.
Wow.
So you've got a great deal of calls coming in. People are concerned. They're not understanding the system. It is what it is. And that's, you know, we've done this so many times that it's just a matter of making sure people are understanding of the process. Because if they don't, then they'll be upset. And you don't want them upset.
The reason commercial property went up is because they are adding more facilities, or?
It was the income side that seemed to pick up this time. So, yeah, per square foot and stuff. Yeah. And again, it depends on the building, depends on the structures. I am releasing and putting out onto the website, which I put it on before I even got here this evening, a spreadsheet of old versus new, market values. Go out there, take a look at it. It's without the benefit of exemptions. It does have the benefit of the 490s, though, the farmland and forest land classifications. That's out there, so it's already set.
And you expect to have all this finalized by when?
I expect to sign the grand list on January, what is the last day in January?
Do we do open space for 490 now?
We do not.
But that wasn't included in the POCD?
It doesn't have it, not at this point.
Okay, if I can, also in your packet was a letter of resignation because Carol's retiring February 21st, and so.
And originally I had said February the 1st, the day after the grand list would be signed, and then I realized that a board that is very close to my heart would have to deal with all these appeals. The last time I was not here physically because my dad was ill, we had over 400 appeals come in, and with no one to stand at the counter and say, are you sure this is what you want because this is why we valued you this way? You have people that are just upset, and they go to the hearings, and then they end up being disappointed because if they had known what we would tell them, they would have gone to hearings.
I appreciate you staying.
So we'll at least, I think, well, the board said the same thing, they said as long as you're sticking around, then we'll stick around, but.
And so we're going to have to start working on finding a replacement for you. And Carol and I talked about it, and we think it would be nice if we could have an assessor in place on February 1st so they could work together for a couple of weeks to really bring them on board. So we're going to start to look for an assessor now.
And I've also said, I mean, if you find one sooner than that, that's acceptable, it's okay. It's okay.
Well, I think we can afford an overlap to some degree.
I'd suggest that we really break our foot.
There's an assessors association, there's all sorts of groups.
Do they post positions?
Yes.
They do, okay. So, you know, someone that's like an assistant assessor who wants to move
You
up.
can actually go online and check on the CAAO site.
Okay.
And you'll see the list, the long list of openings.
Okay.
And that's the tough hill we gotta climb.
Okay.
All right?
That will not make it easy.
Is the pay going to back the person that we can hire that we'll be happy with? Okay. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't here to begin with.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Okay, memorandum of understanding. This is between the Town of East Windsor and the Water Pollution Control Authority. And the former Board of Selectmen worked on this for months, and both Paul Anderson, the chairman of the Water Pollution Control Authority, and I agree that this is good, and we're comfortable with it. It's been reviewed by Josh Hawks-Ladd, so it's up to you whether I should sign this or not.
And let me say, our attorney as well.
Okay.
Just
Wait.
so people understand.
Who's your attorney?
That's not fair.
Okay, fair enough.
Has Lenny seen this?
Lenny.
Norton?
I would say no, but he hasn't read the details.
Mike Lanza.
Okay.
So can you explain what this does?
Probably I can explain, and maybe Paul can help me too, but basically, it says that the WPCA put in new pumps and a generator, and they hooked the generator to Town Hall. To the Scout Hall. Scout Hall will own the generator, is that correct?
No.
No, okay, the public WPCA will own the generator and own the pumps and maintain the pumps. So basically, it won't cost the town anything. But it does establish responsibility and ownership for the pumps and the generator. And that's the WPCA, which in a sense is part of the town, but that's the sewer system of the town will be responsible for it.
The problem was the pump station was never part of the sewer system, and this makes it part of the sewer system. So that is an important delineation, because when we did the research, we come up with just a very convoluted mess of documentation that gave you no answer at all. All we're trying to do is get it down on paper so this doesn't have to come up ever again.
What is the benefit to Scout Hall there? It seems to me here,
None.
they're paying for everything.
They're paying for nothing.
Well, they're paying for the electricity, they're paying for the fuel.
If there's a power outage, I think that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
They
But
pay
so,
the
so what
utilities
benefit do
there,
they get
that's
out of
correct.
any of this, really? Nothing, right? What I can
well-
see, it's costing them a little bit of money if it has to be used.
The pumps, okay, they pay, right now, they're paying the electric bill for the pump station to exist. We tried metering the usage to come up, and the WPCA was gonna reimburse the Scout Hall, and it came out to $11 a year. It wasn't even worth
That
cutting
was
the
it.
check. That's what the cost took to run the pump station, even though there's other properties connected. Because the pumps don't run all the time, they only run when they're needed. It's the same thing here. The cost is quite low. But there's no, because there's no way to meter, for example, the gas that's gonna be used for this generator, because it's almost unmeterable, it's so small. So the cost is gonna be minuscule.
So is the generator large enough to run their air conditioning and all
No,
that?
nothing. Nothing in the hall, nothing in that building whatsoever.
Nothing in the building?
It's not even connected to it. No. It just keeps that pump station working if power is not available, because that's a state law, it's required.
Paul, how large is that generator, just offhand?
Good question.
25,000.
20 or 25 kW. Because they only make them just so small.
Mhm.
It's bigger than is needed. But we have no choice, can't get any smaller. But it was roughly 100 kW to run everything.
220, obviously.
No, it's three-phase.
Oh, it's three-phase,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to authorize me to sign this memorandum of understanding.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? The existing lease agreement between Scout Hall and the town. So as I understand this agreement, this makes the pump station the property of Scout Hall. Correct?
No.
No. No, it's part of the sewer system. It's never been part of the sewer system. This makes it part of the sewer system, which means that the WPCA is totally responsible for it. It's still a town asset. It was always a town asset. You can remember, town owns that entire piece of property. We had an agreement with Linda Roberts way back that we would do the routine maintenance on the pump station as a courtesy.
Who's we?
WPCA. And we did it because that's our expertise. However, when it came to having to totally rebuild it for 25 grand, town didn't want to put any money into it, which I understand. I wouldn't even argue the point. And so we wanted it to become part of the sewer system, which we couldn't document. So it was better to make it part of the total sewer system, and now you're out of it completely, you don't have any responsibility, and all future maintenance, generator, pump station, everything is totally WPCA responsibility.
Replacement?
Everything.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to the police. So, the police, I believe, are going to request some stuff.
I'm gonna need a real document.
Yes, this says draft on. Yeah, I understand.
And then I'll get it signed.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good afternoon.
congratulations on victories and for you guys. Thank you for stepping up. Not too many people want to do that. The reason we're here is we're seeking the funding that we requested in the CIP for 2 vehicles and what's called a next-gen software package. The 2 vehicles, this is a process that's been going on for years, where we replace 2 vehicles 1 year, 3 vehicles the next, 2, 3, 2, and so forth. They're generally high mileage vehicles. The wear and tear on them is more than the mileage shows because of the idle time and all. They run basically 24 hours. Following the guidelines of the charter and the CIP committee, we submitted them. They were approved in the CIP. They're high priority items in the CIP, and basically we're looking to get these things funded. The vehicles are on order so that we can get them, but if we have no money, we don't get them. Simple as that. The software, we're one of 4 departments in the state of Connecticut that is operating on basically an obsolete software system.
Does that mean it interfaces with other departments? Is not adequate?
Next Gen is a primary company for Connecticut-based law enforcement. The vendor we have now, it was originally purchased in 1995. So it's well past its prime, and it's a Massachusetts-based company. So the research and development goes into specific forms and language that's specific to Massachusetts police departments. And we're suffering breakdowns. The deputy checked today. What's the last 11 months show, Dep?
We have 25 tickets pulled in the last 11 months.
For failure, that the system has broken down, so that costs IT funding and money from the police department, time, energy. It's our primary source of how we operate. It's our records management system, our computer-aided dispatching, all the numbers we generate. Everything we do is computer-based. The deputy and I are coming up on 30 years, so we know how to do it with pencil and paper, but that's just not how it's done anymore. So it allows you to allocate your resources better and things of that nature. And we'd like to switch for a Connecticut-based company that's a lot more attentive, and we've done a lot of research on the company and what their skill set and customer service is. So that's why we put it in the normal CIP process, and it went through the budgeting and everything else. So.
It was approved by the town, obviously.
And this new software package that makes our system compatible with other departments in the state of Connecticut.
And it makes it easier to
access
communicate
information
with the state and NCIC and all that stuff. But it's also, it doesn't break. And if it has issues, customer service is considered very high by the end users that are using it now. And it's specific to Connecticut law enforcement. So we originally, and we do everything we can to save a buck. So it's $173,000 on its purchase price. And we were able to get half that purchase price in through the budgeting process. That's what was voted on. So we recontacted the company in an effort to save more money, and we got it down to $55,000 spread over 5 years instead of basically 90 and half of the 173 or 180, whatever it is. So we're looking for the $55,000. We'll get the system, and the problem is we're at the phase in the program where you don't enter the queue until you pay their money, and they've agreed to reduce it to 55, but every day that goes by there's more departments joining. They're starting to take over Massachusetts because this company that we're with is struggling. So we're 12, 13, 14, this could be 8, 9 months down the road, and we're ready to move. It's a budgeted item, so we did all our work and we're ready to do it.
Did this go to bid?
Yeah, they're on the state bid. Yeah.
Okay, did you go to bid with this?
No, they've already done the state bid, and they're the actual best service, the most used service by Connecticut police departments in the entire state.
So the price you get is the state price?
The state, they've already done the bidding for us, the state did it. So you go to their webpage.
What was the price reduction after you spoke with them?
It's the allowance of the 5-year payoff as opposed to.
It's not a reduction.
Spread out.
It's the same.
Correct, right.
It's the same.
We also tried to save a little money a few weeks ago. The company we're using now, we're coming up on their annual fee. So we proposed, let's not pay that annual fee, and we can take that money and reduce the 55 by 15, but we got bogged down in the process, and we ended up having to pay that 15.
How much was that?
15, roughly
50,000.
So that money's gone.
It's gone.
And now, how do they charge for this, being that the price that they want to charge you, is that by user? How do they charge for that now? The department that is, West Hartford.
Right, they would pay more.
Okay.
Yeah, population matters, the police officers, that type of end user, because they're gonna maintain you, throughout the entire year.
Is it population or authorized strength?
It's the number of users.
Yeah, 26.
So you need licensing for each.
Number of users or the amount of data entries?
It's primarily the users. I mean,
They don't care whether you enter 1 million entries or whether you enter, but they do care about whether it's 2 people or.
Correct.
Right, so they'll factor our dispatchers and our police officers and things of that.
Yeah, because
It's generally the software is by user.
It's how many seats you buy.
That's generally.
The good news that they come with, and it's probably a cost factor, is we've been with this system that's failing us, and that's where a lot of 22 years of records are. So they're gonna migrate and transfer all that data into the new system's format.
The new software.
Exactly, so if we say Johnny Jones is a regular residential burglar and we have a similar MO, or we want to search a name, we don't lose that 22 years of data. They're going to spend a lot of time migrating.
That's a big deal, isn't it?
It's a really big deal. And we listened to the company's sales pitch, but then we went and confirmed it with end users, and they're in the high 98% of being able to gather and transfer your data.
Did you seek other proposals, or was it pretty much tied to this company because there are so many users in the state of Connecticut?
Exactly, yeah.
Now, you said that the current system you have just cost a lot of money, because of the failures and so forth. So how much will you save? Say you get this, okay? How much will you save by not having that?
Roger can explain the
What it costs for what it's down.
Yeah, it's actually a yearly amount is a little bit higher, but it's a much better service.
There's no cost savings here, unfortunately. It's a necessary software.
No. But he had said earlier that, there was added cost because of the failures in the system.
To fix them, the repair costs, yes.
Okay, so that's got to be a savings, right? You shouldn't have that. So how much did you spend in that stuff on the old system?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question. It's an excellent question, but on one particular one, our IT guy just has to come in for 2 hours, reconfigure the data, the switch, the whatever, so it's a consistent maintenance or a charge.
But you pay for that?
Yes, absolutely.
That's a separate charge.
We do, and I could give that number to you in an hour, if you let me go back to the building.
Okay.
I didn't bring it with me.
Okay, no, that's fine, just that there is a number.
Yes.
That will be a savings.
Most definitely,
Okay.
in that area alone, yes.
I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, we could give you that data.
We don't manage the IT budget. That's done by another department, so when we need IT services, we contact the department and then they send us IT services. So I couldn't split hairs and tell you whether the person's not normally on the clock for that week for the IT services for the town, or whether we're calling them in for additional hours.
It's Public Works, and actually I can get, the individual who's kind of specialized in that is Joe Sauerhopper. And, so really our IT is run through Public Works. And
I don't think he'd be able to give you that number off the top of his head either.
No.
Bear in mind that this went through CIP and justifications of what was needed, and it was approved with high priority for the last CIP.
It went through the police commission as well, the department of, or the finance board, this board. And we went into great detail as to what CAD is, what RMS is, and things of that nature.
Bob, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but can I ask a quick question? Because I'm a little confused. We already did all this, we approved it in the budget, we approved it in our CIP for the budget, and we shouldn't, I don't understand why we're going through this. It's already a CIP approved project, the budget got approved by the
No,
voters.
actually, the...
That's why I'm confused.
Yeah, the CIP makes a list of priorities.
Yep.
And their list of priorities that they put in the budget process, I believe, was $1.2 million.
Right, and we cut it.
And we cut it to $667,000. So now, and now we don't have a CIP committee, although we just created one tonight. So they have to go and reprioritize, and then they can spend the money.
Well, the thing is that was part of the CIP budget. We still have CIP dollars. So we shouldn't really be going for a supplemental appropriation. We should be taking it out of that CIP fund. Especially since we already went through the whole process.
You can do either one. You can do either one. We could do a supplemental appropriation if we want, and that's because right now we have a very healthy fund balance, and we do have to reduce it. And if we wanted to, and there's two options, and I have no preference to either one.
Well, I'm just partial because the voters voted for that budget. They voted for that CIP. This was in that list of CIP.
Yeah, but actually, if you go down one of the priority lists I have, and it's hard to get the last priority list, but hard to read it too. I think Bob, you were involved.
Everybody should have a copy of that. Matter of fact, there was finished business that was submitted to the board back in November last year.
Okay, so if you go down the priority list, the two police cars are on there, but there's not enough on there to pay for the full 700. There's 175,000 that falls out. In fact, I have the list here. Highest priority is the two police cars. Then the window abatement for the...
which was done.
Which we...
And that's true. So I'm not ready to take over the prioritizing of CIP, but if you guys want to do it.
Well, I just think that it was part of it, we have money in that, so I'm not sure why we're revisiting it all over. I think that concerns me because it's something that was already approved.
If we don't have a CIP committee, so
to this board.
Joe was
You're back.
Joe was the chairman of the committee. What do you think, Joe? The question is, I think the question is, should we take out of CIP money, the $667,000 that was approved for CIP?
$607,000, $100,000 of that goes back towards the lease purchases for the heating system and the trucks that were purchased.
Right.
So it leaves about $500,000. It was ranked second on CIP's list. First came some boilers at the middle school, which was about $140,000.
But I don't think we've expended any of that 600.
CIP has not, we did not meet in fear of the state budget. We weren't unsure what the state budget was going to be. So it would be my recommendation as the former chair of CIP is to have them meet and allocate this year's funds because they're there, and then it's done. You don't have to go for a town meeting, and it cuts out a lot of the regular stuff. But I mean, that's how I would like to have seen it done with CIP. Is, you know, it was a project, and it was ranked very high, and it's very important. And I can tell you, as the IT guy, we're having nothing but nightmares with the system they have now.
I agree with everything you said. So that's what
it's
I would
screwing the rest
suggest
of the
that too.
building.
So really, we have a CIP committee now, and I can get them to meet fairly soon. As soon as they can meet, then you get authorization if they rank it high enough, and I don't see why they won't. then we could buy the system.
Will that be out of this year's budget?
That would be out of the $667,000 that were approved for this year's budget.
FY17.
Yeah.
The one thing about CIP is it doesn't go away when the budget in July 1st or June 1st. The projects are allocated for the fiscal year.
5 years.
Well, that's not a 5-year plan for them, that was a one-time.
And we just changed that while you were away doing whatever. We have it down to 5 payments now, Joseph.
Well,
Or,
either
yeah,
one.
it's
Let's CIP.
5 payments instead of 1 payment.
Well,
I think that's an option CIP can make
Okay.
that
yeah,
decision.
but that's kind of how not CIP works.
Oh, okay.
It's a one-time purchase, so CIP would, the old CIP, I'm sorry, would have given them the whole dollar amount they asked for.
There you go, guys, we've got to give you all of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Wherever it comes, we don't care. As long as we can get it underway.
So what happens?
You're all set? We're gonna hold the CIP meeting, and you can come in and if they don't give it to you, but I don't see why they won't.
Okay.
Go back to this for
Any idea when that?
Okay, sure, yeah.
Regarding these 2 police cruisers that are high priority, somebody needs to explain to me why that would be a capital improvement. Somebody needs to tell me. So how could that be?
It's a one-time expense more than $20,000.
It's not a capital improvement.
Well, but it's a one-time expense that we do every year.
I've had the same argument with the past.
We agree, but for the last 15 years, that's the system
wrong.
of the town.
That needs to be fixed, because if you need police cruisers, that should be, you go to your commission. and
It's a
they
known
either
number
approve it-
every
they
single
approve it or
year.
they don't approve it, okay?
Right.
You know, because I was gonna ask to see, how many vehicles you have and all this stuff, well, I'm not gonna ask that now. But that is not a capital improvement, period.
I think maybe
From an
with our new
accounting practice, it's
CIP
not.
committee, that'd be a good discussion to have.
Accounting standard, it's not a capital improvement.
I agree with you.
It's a diminishing asset.
How would you change it? It's in the charter.
You've got to change that charter.
I don't
There should
think,
be a way to
think it's in the charter.
No, it's not. I can't imagine that's in the charter.
Oh, because of the definition that Jason gave.
It's the dollar amount, not the difference.
Right, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, because we've argued that it should be in a regular budget.
Got to do the whole deal.
We'll look into that. We can see if we can move that on. That, from the accounting practice, that's wrong.
Just so you know the importance of the argument you just made, I have to sit before 4 boards every year and discuss 2 cruisers. We've reduced the size of the car. Roger can answer your questions if you want to know. And we'll make that presentation again as a new member. And we've done everything we can, but every year we come in for either 2 or 3. There's no surprises.
It should go solely before your.
It's a basic.
When you say you've gotten the car smaller, are you getting like Foci now?
Well, they are actually a lot smaller if you look at them too.
You got cops driving around in like an Echo, Toyota Echo.
Every once in a while.
One last
I gotta be
question.
careful, you folks are very literal tonight.
You said that you already ordered them. How do you order them if you don't have any money?
We can place an order.
And that's how we did get the money. We operated under the belief, normally we make these purchases in July.
Don't you go through that central supply to get the ones that everybody else gets?
State bid.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the best price available to us.
And they have a stockpile of them, don't they?
No, actually, they don't.
Really?
Yeah. If you gave us the money tomorrow, I mean, at best, we're talking 8 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, they were talking end of December to maybe January.
And that's the same thing, and thank you very much, sir, for problem solving. That's why we were here tonight. I appreciate it.
We'll fix that. That's wrong accounting practice.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon, guys.
Thank you. We returning chairs?
We made them. A question. Does does that mean that the last time we will see the police department here with this kind of approval? It gets approved by the CIP, is that right? In the future?
For what's considered capital improvements,
Yeah.
and obviously the software was capital improvement, and the police car, rightfully or wrongfully, because they are an annual thing, that's a capital improvement, but the police are going to come in here when they have their budget, and their budget would include salaries and supplies and professional services, everything they need to run the police department. They'll come before us when they make the budget, but not the CIP.
I understand that, but not come back for the approval. That'll be done.
Yeah, that'll be done through CIP, and we shouldn't see them again for that. Okay. Sure.
They got, when the people voted on the budget, they got the most money of anybody. They got 6%, right?
I'm not sure exactly the percentage, but they did get...
The other people got like 2%,
yeah,
or less.
Right.
So that extra 4%, I mean, what do they do with that extra 4%?
Well, no, but the
They got more
salaries,
than
but
everybody
it was
else.
salaries primarily, and what was an overlap, because I think the pension, or not the pension, the labor negotiations increase their salary, but you can't increase the budget until you actually define how much the expense is going to be. So they pay them like a half a year or 3/4 of a year at an unbudgeted amount, and then they had to budget for the next year too. So that meant it went up to like 5% because it was probably about 2.5% a year.
So all that extra money went towards pays.
Pretty much, yeah. But okay, let's move on to the next. The next is we have to make up a 2018 day schedule for the Board of Selectmen. I would like to move the Board of Selectmen meeting date, weekday till Thursday. I'd like to meet on Thursdays.
Instead of Tuesdays.
Instead of Tuesdays. And the reason I want to do that is the town works, the town employees in this building work until 7 o'clock on Thursday nights. And if we want someone to come in from the town and speak to us, they would just stay and speak to us. That Carol came in tonight, she was working overtime in a sense, or she certainly could have gone home earlier. Oftentimes the tax collector will come in, Rand Stanley, the building department, Lori will come in, the treasurer, the new treasurer will come in, so that makes it easy for the town workers to come and talk to us. And so I suggest we change it to 7 o'clock Thursday night.
So moved.
Okay. Second. Discussion.
I don't know.
Okay, it's different, isn't it? It's a change.
Yeah, it's a different change, yeah, it's different.
What are you doing Thursday nights?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think it would really help. I think like tonight Joanne came in and she was the town clerk and she's required to come in and be the secretary or support the town meeting. If it was Tuesday night, again, she lives in Manchester. She could go home and come back. It just makes sense to have the town workers who are in a knowledgeable position come in easily to talk to us.
Sounds logical.
Is Thursday a hardship for you?
Okay, any further discussion?
It might for me. I don't know if it does or not. I'm taking graduate courses, and I built my semester schedule for the spring around Tuesdays. I don't remember what nights the classes are in the spring.
Okay, why don't we'll wait for you to come back and
2 weeks from now, I'll be able to
Make a decision the next meeting.
Then we'll have to make a decision at the next meeting.
That's for next semester.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
The classes are offered.
Yeah.
So you withdrawing your motion?
What are you doing then?
Bob?
Yes.
So you withdrawing your motion until Jason can decide? Knows his schedule, whatever. What do you do?
That's a good point. It's been moved and seconded, so Okay, is the procedure to, can we withdraw the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to withdraw the motion, Charlie, or we could postpone the vote until next.
You've got to make your vote within the next meeting date because your dates have to be filed with the state.
Okay.
In December, or you have to start doing your
Yes,
January meetings and
special.
special meetings, da, 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 da. So you've got to make, I mean, you can't fool around with it.
Okay.
It's January 31st.
We were told if it was not posted.
All right, so, are you saying we should withdraw the motion? Is that what you're saying?
If you're not going to approve it tonight,
Okay.
wait for Jason's schedule.
Okay. I think we're not going to approve it, but there goes our motion maker.
We can chat.
Hey.
We can talk about, let's see, whatever.
Okay, Charlie, we're waiting for you to withdraw the motion to have meetings on Tuesday nights, or Thursday nights.
Okay, is that a motion to withdraw? Is that what
You just withdraw it.
No, you can just say I withdraw the motion.
Withdraw the motion.
Okay. Now we'll go on to 12F, and that's Board and Commission Liaisons. And in the package you have a list of the various boards. And I propose we change the policy as far as liaisons go. If someone wants to be a liaison to a committee, that's fine. I'd like to have them. If there are committees that don't have liaisons, that's fine too. I'll report on the committees that don't have liaisons by talking to the chairman, either the chairman of that committee or the town person who services that committee, like the treasurer, the public works, not public works, planning and zoning. So, are there anybody? Is there anyone who? And I personally would like to I'll attend the police commission. So I'll be a liaison to the police commission. Are there any other commissions? Jason?
Planning and zoning?
Okay.
I want to do the inland wetlands.
Okay. Slow down.
He doesn't write that.
Got to find them. This is not an alphabetical order here. Inland wetlands. Okay. Okay.
I want to be sitting there when the casino starts with theirs. I want to see what goes on.
Okay. So you got that one.
Economic development.
Okay.
Agriculture?
Okay. And
Somebody
how
grab
about,
ZBA.
Jason, would you like to be the liaison to the pension board?
No, I'm a member.
Oh, you can't be the liaison?
No. Well, I mean, I can, but sure.
We'll ask you what they're doing.
About ZBA.
Okay?
I'm sorry, I missed what Steve's.
ZBA for Steve, zoning board of appeals. Finance board. Anybody want to be a liaison to the finance board?
I'll do that.
Okay.
It takes a lot of time, doesn't it?
It does, although I think we, again, if I have to contact them, I can do that.
Well, the Agricultural Commission and the Conservation Commission, they kind of run right neck and neck, right?
They do.
They're at the same meeting.
More or less, yeah. But if there's no more, like I say, let's go with what we have, and then I'll report on the others, and we'll see how it works out.
Can I review them with you, because I'm not hearing all of you down there?
Okay.
I'm getting Bob, Police Commission,
Yes.
Jason, PCC, Steve, Inland Wetlands, AJ, EDC. Jason was going to do agricultural and conservation. Okay.
I don't know about conservation. Did you say conservation too?
It's essentially the same board, and they meet the same night, so.
Jason.
I mean, I'll happily split it if somebody wants, but.
No, that's fine.
Steve was doing ZBA, and Charlie is doing Board of Finance.
Yes.
Did I miss anybody?
What Jason's doing, pension board.
You know, I hear the pension board has a lot of executive sessions.
Well, we're now in pension negotiations, so that's a different ballgame. It's not the full board. I'm moving on now to 12G, and that's policies. I just as soon skip this one because we're running out late on time, and I think we can put it off for till the next Board of Selectmen meeting, and I would propose we do that. So to modify an agenda like that, we need a 2/3 vote. So.
Why don't we just postpone it?
Why would we?
Why wouldn't we?
I would.
Could you just
Okay,
do a
we can
motion?
vote to postpone it.
I move to postpone agenda items 12G subsections 1 and 2 until the next meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those approved?
Aye.
Okay. And,
So just, can you have that re-included in our packet next time?
yes, that's what I'll do. H is fire protection funding, and
Yes, we did.
this, is just an informational thing unless somebody is inspired. Couple things. When I read the request from the Broadbrook Fire, from the Warehouse Point Fire Department in the casino request, they were asking for 12 firefighters, and that I think is, as Steve would say, fluff, but it did indicate to me, and they're right, that they're going, in both fire departments, are going to need full-time full-time firefighters, or paid firefighters anyway, and it's only a matter of time. And I personally, and I'm throwing out ideas here, we're not solving anything, but a way to start is to start discussing it. I think when we have paid firefighters, we really need one police department. We can't be funding duplicate coverage in 2 fire departments. So that's a big picture thing. And then in your package, Victor Capria put a good write-up on why we have the Warehouse Point Fire District residents paying for the Broadbrook and the Warehouse Point, and the Broadbrook paying for just the Broadbrook. And that's kind of something we tried to deal with about a year ago, and we had a commission, and they voted 8-1 to put forth to the town that we have one fire district, and that would require the residents outside Warehouse Point to vote to be part of the district. Well, we never followed up on that, and that's one solution that we could consider. And this, we're not trying to solve it tonight. We're just throwing out ideas. Another solution to make equitable funding of the fire departments is to put the Warehouse Point Fire Department back in the budget, which is what Vic is suggesting, for the same amount that we put in the budget for the Broadbrook. And that would make the taxing fair, that everybody in the town would be paying for both fire departments. And then if Warehouse Point wanted to get more money, they could, right, to funding. But at least we'd be being fair about it. Another one is, a solution would be for the town to take over somehow the Warehouse Point Fire District and fully fund it, but that's a question. Another one would be that Broadbrook could form, in a sense, their own district, or a group, a taxing district, to fund the Broadbrook Fire Department. And there's other options too. The town could rent, let's see. They could let the Warehouse Point Fire Department run all the fire departments and then send us a bill. So there's a lot, something to think about. I think the bottom line is we really need one fire department here in town. We've got to think about how we're going to get there.
What's the precedent for a town like Enfield, for example? They have multiple firehouses. Do they have one fire department?
They have, I believe, five fire districts, and we don't.
So they're separate individuals.
And I think that's a problem. If we have one district, that wouldn't, to me, that's the solution that the board came up with. If somehow we can get both fire departments back in the budget, that might be a solution. But I think we really need one fire department if we're going to hire people. And how we do that, I'm not sure, but it's something to start thinking about. And that's all I want to say. Anybody else want to say anything? Okay. So, tax refund approval. I would entertain a motion to approve the tax refund.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Selectmen reports. Jason, you're up.
On November 1st, I attended the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission meeting. The commission heard a number of violations, including the cease and correct order issued against Stuart Brown and Margaret Drive. Mr. Brown was found to have been illegally dumping onto town property. He's taken some steps to correct the issue, but does not have an approved work plan application for the remediation of that work as of the night of November 1st. I think you may by now. On November 7th, I stopped by the Veterans Memorial Green to see the progress being made on the commemorative paver path and memorial stones. As Mr. Barton alluded to earlier, it is coming along very nicely. And lastly, the pension board continues to make good progress negotiating new pension agreements with several bargaining units in town. The goal is to save the town money, and we are well on our way to achieving that. We met with 2 bargaining units last week, and we'll do so again next week and the week after. That's all I have.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, I also stopped down yesterday and looked at the Memorial Green, and it's really beautiful. It's really nice. Like we discussed about the casino, I spoke to Dave, and it's moving along. It's going to come. It's going to be here. It's just going to take little blip niches, but it's going to be here. And everybody have a nice Thanksgiving. That's it.
Good. Andy, not only reports, you can make comments.
I came here tonight, that's my report.
You've done well. You reported tonight, no question. Charlie.
Yeah, a couple of things. One is I stopped today and was looking at the Broadbrook Dam and seeing how they drain the pond and so forth. And so I see this machine there. It looks like they're going to be doing some work shortly. And that being kind of the centerpiece of the town, as it once was, and you know, it supported the mill and everything else, and it kind of got an uplift when it was dredged that time and got all that done. But you know, in recent time, that in the past year, couple, 3 years, that there's a lot of growth of wild bushes and so forth that are around the edge there by the pond and so forth. And you know, since we are going to have that big celebration next year, I expect, you know, I hope we're going to get guests from other places coming here to see the town and see this, you know, what we have. And I think that's an important part of it. You know, Broad Brook, well, where's Broad Brook? You know, here's the brook and here's the pond that feeds it. And I think that, you know, some way if the Public Works Department, I saw the other day, they have a truck that has a bucket that can go up. Obviously, it can go down because it's, you know, it's right on the edge there to go, and especially this time of the year when they're probably not extremely busy because they're not plowing snow yet, and to get all that stuff out of there before the start of the year, to clean all that up someone or somebody needs to, because it's unsightly.
I agree with what you said, but
like
I think, and my understanding is that when they come in to repair the dam, they're going to rip all that stuff right out. It's going to be gone, all that vegetation, just to get the machines in there and what they need to rebuild it. So
I don't think, not in the front, I don't think.
Well, but you're right. We take a look at it. I think
if they do, that's great, but that's not where I would think they'd be working.
Well,
I can answer the question.
There you go. Yeah, I was looking for you.
So in the process of rebuilding the dam, we're putting a spillway, we're getting away from the flashboard. The whole front, the fencing's all going to be changed over. The old sluice gate is gone, so there will be no vegetation there come springtime.
So those trees and all that stuff will be...
Everything along the fence line of the property where the phone company owns and around the front of the bridge. And then back around this side, all that vegetation will be gone because it won't even exist. There won't be a grow other than on the grass line.
Yeah. How about on the other side after the spillway? Because that's all like briars growing over the bridge itself and everything. It's a mess there. It was never like that.
No, that's a good point. I think let me look into that. We can. Public Works can take a look at it.
It's going to be gone.
Okay.
In the budget sheet that I've gotten, I would like to get for the meeting from the prior month the year-to-date budget by the departments and what their spend to date is by line items.
Not a problem. In fact,
we should be looking at that, and I don't know if you had in the past, but I didn't get anything like that.
Right, and I thought, and we'll talk about it, when the treasurer sends that out, they send it out to the Board of Finance anyway, once a month. So they should send it to us. It's just a matter of putting our names on the email list.
Okay, so they have a column to show that it's plus or minus then?
Yes.
To where it
yeah,
should
the percentage used, you know, the budgeted amount, the amount spent, and the percentage that remains.
Well, it should be to pace, to what pace would be for the month.
Well, it's more of a monthly report.
Okay, but the percentage isn't going to tell you anything.
Well, no,
It should
in
be
other
to
words,
pace.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Okay,
but
that if you have a $1,200 to spend for a line item, okay, and we're in month 4, but we've spent 800, we're going to look at that and say, you know, kind of what's going on.
And that's what I meant.
I'm simplifying it, so it's the pace, you know, we're $400 ahead of pace.
Yes. Well, I mean, you'd have to do the subtraction. The percentage just compares the 800 with the total, which is 1,200, so you know what percentage you've spent in 4 months. You've spent 66 2/3%. I would say that out.
I know, but it should be the dollar amount. Okay, because you want to quickly look through the
But
records.
we'd have to subtract the amount spent from.
No, it should be to pace. That's a.
Okay,
You know,
all right.
It's an
I didn't
Excel
know that.
thing. It's
Well,
an Excel thing to quickly do.
We can do that.
I'm surprised they
Yeah.
don't.
That information's got to be available.
Oh, yeah, no, it's right. Just put it in a column in the spreadsheet. Okay, anything else? Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is, I don't know if it was in your package. I got the, on October 26th, I got the, really, the impact of the state budget on the town. If it's not in your package.
It was not in.
Okay, here it is. Just pass it down. So, if you look at the bottom line here, on page 1, we're getting the exact same amount this year as we got last year. And little caveat to that is there's something called renter's rebate, which is for low-income people. If they need help with their rent, they can apply to a state fund, or they used to be able to apply to a state fund. And if they qualified, they would get some help paying their rent. When they did the budget, they took away that rebate for renters, but now it seems the Office of Policy and Management seems to be putting it back in, at least for a part. I guess they had $6 million in there, so it's a possibility that could cost us, well, the total amount that we paid last year was $90,000, so it could cost us part of that. And then there's another grant that is for elderly housing under certain circumstances. They can get money back from the state, and that might be in jeopardy too. So we might be at risk of maybe a little over $100,000. So it's very good. This is very good for us. And so that's why we have a strong fund balance at this time. And that's why we put a freeze on non-essentials. And I don't believe I sent out the memo, but I'll send it out tomorrow saying that we're taking the freeze off non-essential spending.
So can I ask I don't know if you'll know the answer to this or not, but the last bullet under notes says that the FY18 Alliance District portion of the ECS will be the amount above the FY12 ECS amount for designated towns. Is that a typo, or are they actually using fiscal year 12 as a benchmark?
I think they are using 12 as a benchmark. And we do get the Alliance grant.
Have we been in Alliance District since?
Yeah, we have.
I don't understand why 2012 is of significance.
I don't know why it's of significance either.
What is this Pequot Mohegan grant, 45,000?
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's so close to our town that it's worth discussing. The Mashantucket Pequot and Mohegan Sons pays the state, and I believe it's about $260 million a year in revenue from the slot machines, 25%. And that revenue is taken by the state and given it to the towns, and we got $45,000 from that money. And when they take the money from us, it'll probably go to the towns around Connecticut too. So that's what it is. It's the, the casino fund. It's funding that and giving us $45,000.
Not a lot in the scheme of the number.
No, but if every town in Connecticut got $45,000, that adds up. So helps.
Another way to think of it is 2 trips to the casino for Andy's wife.
There you go.
So they're bringing it home. They're bringing it home to you.
Okay, so that ends our report and comments. Now we're back to public participation. Okay, Marie.
Marie, this is December 3rd. I just want to remind the Board of Selectmen and the Selectmen themselves that when the casino came and the mitigation was put together by the police chief and his people, that was accepted by the previous board as a benchmark to go to the public and explain to the public what was going to happen. That's a contract that's been signed by all that needs to be adhered to. And I'm concerned with some of the things I've heard tonight that goes against that contract. So I'm just cautioning you, if you haven't read that contract in a while, you might want to go back and read it again, because you certainly don't want to come back and ask for expenditures to the town. And there's some disgruntled people out there that I've heard that why aren't they following what they originally told us? Why are they changing up midstream? So I just caution the new board to be careful with that. The other thing is, Dale Nelson and Dick Pippin were not re-elected. But I want to publicly say, I want to thank both of them individuals for their service to this town as volunteers for the many years that they've done. Whether I've agreed with them or disagreed with them, they gave the heart and soul to the town of East Windsor. So when I hear somebody speak negatively of a volunteer publicly, it just breaks my heart because they've done more than others have done in town. So they need to be commended. Dick Pippin was tonight appointed to a board commission that I feel will do an excellent job on as he has in the past. I just hope there's not a vendetta going to go on because somebody doesn't like somebody in town, and a vendetta is going to take place and cause havoc to a board that's been running smoothly. So I caution all boards and commission members to be willing to do due diligence. Respect the people that are volunteering, just like you want to have respect from them. The other thing is I want to thank everybody here tonight for reappointing me to the East Windsor Housing Authority. It's very much appreciated, but not only me, but for most of the residents up at Park Hill. As you all know, when I went up there with a new change of board, a new change of staff up there, we had to borrow $25,000 just because we weren't sure if we were going to be able to meet payroll the first month we were there. Today, we have a savings account of $367,000, and we've done, with the help of the town, a lot of major renovations up at Park Hill. So if you haven't been up there for a while, go up and take a look. Today's project, the generator was removed, which will be donated over to Scott Hall for any needs they may have in the future. The new one is being installed. We had a little problem with the water off for about an hour today, but it's okay. All the sidewalks have been done over up there, and we're in the process now, thanks to the town of East Windsor. They gave us the $52,000 from some money that was held over to us, and we're in the process now of revamping the bathrooms. It's going to cost us probably around $10,000 out of our own pocket for remediation of those bathrooms, because we have to spend $1,700 just to see if there's any asbestos in those, and if there is, then we'll be reliable to remove that asbestos in order to do those bathrooms over. But we've made great strides up there. As of today, we're 100% occupied, and we're looking, because the town has been gracious enough, and I think we have to come back in May again, has allowed us, on the pilot money that we pay, it's allowed us to go from 10% to 7%. We're looking at our structure up there now, and going to have a scale, lower income, next level, to see if we can boost up our revenue that we're coming in so they can remain self-sustaining, because we don't want to rely on the mill pond money to run the operation up there. We'd like to keep that money off to the side for future with that 7 acres. If something happens, we can finally build on there. So we've made great strides up there. We have a good board, and nobody wants to come out to sit on our board, but we would appreciate it. You don't want to do it on a regular basis if somebody would just come out once in a while, because that share with the liaison works both ways. You get to see what's happening with the money that you give us, plus our residents get to ask the liaison what's happening here, but they can't always get out to the meeting. So it works both ways. So thank you.
Okay, I have one question.
Yes.
You talked in the beginning about a contract.
Yes.
Is that a written contract?
That's the mitigation that you handed out to everyone?
Talking about the development
The
agreement.
development agreement? With all the
Okay, no, that's
mitigation?
fine.
Yeah, that's a
I know
signed
what the
contract.
development
And I
agreement
believe it
says.
says in there that the mitigating was supposed to be for certain areas.
Doesn't say that.
I'll
Have
bring
you
my
read it?
copy. Yeah, I'll bring
Okay.
my copy.
Okay,
We'll
well,
talk.
you should come and talk to me
Yeah,
about
I'll
it.
come talk.
We can underline it.
Okay.
Okay. Bill?
Bill Lowe, Melrose Road. I think it's appropriate for the Board of Selectmen to elect the deputies for selectmen.
True, true.
And if you're not here, we need somebody to run the town, so.
And we need somebody to run the meeting.
I think somebody has to run the meeting, so I think
I
it's
agree.
appropriate that you do that.
So at the next meeting, we'll do it. So we have to think about that, who we want to be a deputy selectman. Okay, that's a great thing. Yes?
Jim Martin, just an observation, when you're considering changing your meeting date, there's probably a trickle-down effect on other boards and commissions.
I did look at the schedule, and you're right, I think maybe Veterans is on there.
Might be.
Veterans on it, and there's other committees that aren't
Well,
on that
and I was
schedule.
gonna talk to them about maybe moving to Tuesday, because that would be open, so. Yeah?
Keith Yageloff, 125 Depot Street. It may not be wise to spend any money on anything related to the casino until you get money. The demolition fees could be used to advance money that could be repaid from the mitigation funds. But until you actually get the demolition money, which sounds like it might be coming soon, or the building permit fees, my suggestion is you don't spend any money out of town funds in anticipation of getting something back, because that may not come back. Now, as far as the casino funds, the mitigation funds, I remember there was some talk about having a committee. Committee would be have representatives of the Board of Ed and the police and the fire and maybe ambulance, but also there was going to be residents, including taxpayers, that were going to be part of the committee to make recommendations as far as what might happen, what should be used for those funds. So if you go back out to a town meeting and it's just the Board of Selectmen taking a sampling of town departments about what they want, and you're going to be back in the same situation potentially where the town meeting may say no because they want to be asked what they think are their priorities. So I suggest that you consider having a committee of residents and representatives of the stakeholders first before you advance out your ordinances to the back out to the town meeting. Although the comment tonight about the first ordinance being perhaps the simplest, just creating the fund and having multiple ordinances this time instead of a single would be a way at least to get that started. But the allocation of money, and that's going to be by way of ordinance as to what priorities are going to be set. If you haven't talked to the residents, including taxpayers, you're risking that you're just going to get a defeat. And now, if there's another defeat that's close to when you need to have that set, you're going to have some problems in terms of finance.
Thank you.
I agree. I think, however, that the first ordinance, the very simple one that defines what happens to the money and how it's held, would be something that we could do in advance of that. But I agree that once we start talking about allocation, that you have to get the people in town involved in that. You know, in my mind's eye, and it means nothing at this point, but I would think that something like giving people in town a line item vote on allocation of money would be a significant step in the direction of getting people on board. That way they really are a shareholder.
Okay. Further comments? Yes.
James Barton, 108 Main Street, Warehouse Point, Section East Windsor. I just want to say that it seems like the letter that the correspondence that the fire district submitted tonight wasn't acted on or wasn't, I just don't want it to be forgotten. We've gotten to this place, it's been over several years that we were forced to go back to being a taxing district, which kind of penalizes the citizens of Warehouse Point. So at the last district meeting, I'm under the impression that the district wants to work with you to come to a solution to make the taxes equal and fair to all the citizens of Warehouse Point. So I hope that this letter just doesn't get forgotten about, and maybe you could put it on the next agenda, or maybe have some correspondence with the fire district. I see that nobody actually took that liaison position tonight. So I'm just...
Well, first of all, I'll guarantee it's on the next agenda, so that's a start. And I hear what you're saying, thank you, and we'd like to have a dialogue. I think it's not just you and not this board and you that have to be involved, or the Warehouse Point Fire Department, Fire District. A lot of people have to get involved, but
there's some new people on the board now, and I'm speaking as a taxpayer because I don't like paying two taxes either. Consult with the fire district. If there needs to be a presentation or something put on to see how we got here and where we'd like to go in the future, under the direction of the fire commission, I would gladly do that for you. But I'm just asking that you correspond with them, and hopefully we can come to a solution.
Okay, that's good.
I kind of see, this is kind of a big deal, and that to really understand it, I haven't quite digested all of this just yet, but I think it's worthy that we do that, and that we have perhaps maybe, because it's going to take some time to go through that, would like to have, the fire district people sit down and talk about this, and not just read it. So maybe we could have a special meeting, just wrapped around that, because I think it's that important. And we got Broadbrook to think about and everything else. I don't think we could do it in this normal selectmen's meeting. You agree?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and that sounds like a plan. And we might be able to have a meeting on the first Monday or something of the month with the fire district.
Yeah, I mean, our district meetings are the first Monday of every month. Everybody's welcome at 189 Bridge Street.
We'd have to, if we come as a board, we'd have to have a special meeting in a sense. We have to publish it, but we'd be happy to do that. So.
Talk to the chairman of the fire commission, and I'll do whatever we have to do.
Okay.
Good.
All right, any further public participation? Yeah, Tom.
Town meeting, 23 Rice Road. I just have one comment. Congratulations to all the members of the new members of the board. I'd really like to see the members make the motion, not Bob, and then someone say, so be it. I'd like to see the members make the motion and not Bob. I think that was a much nicer setup.
Yeah, I kind of liked it better too.
I'm sure you did, but I'd like to see the members making the motion instead of just saying.
Okay, well, we'll work on that. We've got a couple years, so we'll try to do it in a couple months. How's that? Okay, any further public participation? All right, what's next? So I guess we're going to go into executive session. Thank you very much. Yeah, I move we go into, for somebody to make a motion, we go into executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second? Second. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. All those in favor?
I have no money.
Okay, we got Steve now, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Yeah, you do, Bob.
I know. I'm old hat, but you're new face. Oh, sorry. We've lived there forever. Well, there you go.
Can someone second going into executive session? Melissa? It was on there originally. Oh, no!
So you're talking about the pond over there. They're not gonna go all the way up there. I don't know. They're just working on that, on the face of the wood. Falls over. I understand it's gonna be cement, but it's gonna be like a. I don't think they're gonna knock anything down. They're gonna fix that, but it keeps falling off. I guess they're gonna make it look like wood. Now you do the imprints and cement for like a patio. That's not what I thought. I thought it was going to be the regular waterfall, except they were going to put it into it. Right, and they're going to put lines in the cement to make it look like it's wood. They would stain it, put the stained concrete, all right, so it's stained all the way through, so it looks like When you want to see some birds, you're really into that. My farm over there. There's some nest up with some trees about this big. Next to where I do the wood. And they're flying. I think they're some kind of a hawk. The things are about this big. And the little birds attack them.
Oh, yeah.
They're flying around, and the little birds are going at them like this, dive bombing at them. And the big bird can't make the turn fast enough, you know? So he's trying to get away from him. You got like these 20 little birds going at him. You know, it's like his own one. Yeah, look at that. Two of them there, huh? There's got to be a pair, yeah. Now, where's this tree? Why would they hang so close to all that activity? They've got to have a nest somewhere. So if they stay away from it, I mean, it's way up there. I mean, they'll be all right. They're not going to touch any of that up there. They're not going to hear any of that. Probably Delic, right? They drained it, they put the pontoons out there, and they went out and back the trucks with it, and they were taking it up.
Very shallow.